Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me and see me and smell me. Probably not. That would be weird. But hello. I hope everyone's having a good day. Thank you for your patience. I was furiously typing behind the scenes, getting ready for the stream. I'm so excited today because we are going to be talking about classic X-Men. We did this over on Sasha's channel on Casually Comics. If you have not seen that stream, do yourself a freaking favor, my friends. Go check it out. It's awesome. And yeah, actually, can I do this and will both of them pop up? Oh yeah, I think they will. Sweet. Yeah, so you can check it out over on Sasha's channel, and I'm gonna bring her in, and today we're gonna talk about something different though, not the Blob. We're talking about a different villain. We're talking about Magneto. Hello, Sasha.
Hi, I'm happy to be here again. I'm very excited to talk about these issues and Magneto and how completely unhinged they are, which I
So
think was
unhinged.
captured in the thumbnail, which is madness.
We were talking before, and apparently some of you guys were guessing which issues we were going to be talking about, and there were some interesting guesses in the chat, and I was like, the thumbnail really says it all. But I guess you would have also had to have read these issues to know. It's also in the video description if you guys are ever wondering. I do put things there. I know no one reads it, but it's there for you if you want it. Hello everybody. Yes. Lord Mung is saying that you are the Janet Van Dyne of the YouTube world.
That is very nice. I don't think I'm fashionable enough to be Janet Van Dyne, though.
I feel like you're pretty fashionable. I was literally thinking when you actually sent me pictures for the thumb today, I was like, this isn't like you inspired me to change my outfit. Like I was like, ooh, like this is a good vibe. But then I thought, do I do something that's also like a red dress so we're matching? Or do I do a complementary green? Because we are going to talk about X-Men issue 17 and 18. So some of you were correctly guessing in chat. And this shirt, I feel like, says it all. What the frog is my thoughts on this issue exactly. So, yeah, that's basically what we're going to be doing today. I am so excited. I don't have any history for us other than, I mean, there is something in the notes, I guess I'll say, that I feel like we might touch on.
Mm.
We can get to that when we get to that, though.
Oh, and then
Let
we
me
have that
just.
one correction panel that I sent to
Yes.
you that we'll get to.
I guess, and those are more like historical things that we're just gonna discuss
Pepper
throughout.
in.
Yeah, they'll be peppered in there for you guys. So enjoy that. I'm just gonna set up my screen, and ooh, there it is.
So very. Oh, look, it's nicely complimentary with the background that we've got going
It
on.
is. Yeah, there you go. X-Men, and none shall survive. So this is issue 17. I would also have loved to just discuss issue 18, but I do feel like this is a comic that if we had just jumped into it, it would be like very weird without the context.
You need the
And
build up.
yeah, you need the drama of why is this happening. So I have my notes. I'm just gonna put them over here. Even though I feel like when we talk about comics, I always write all these notes and then I'm like, I never look at them. But I wrote them so that they'd be in my brain, I guess.
Well, it's good to have them because if you didn't, then that's when
Yeah,
things
then
would
I'd
go
be like,
awry.
I don't know what I'm gonna talk about. So this is an interesting one. And I also gotta say, I love on these covers, there's so many promises jumping into the comic. Like,
Yes.
you must not reveal the incredible ending to any living soul.
But this one's also threatening you because it's like, remember, we'll be watching you.
Like Magneto in this thumb. Which I guess also I'm in trouble because I did reveal the ending with my thumbnail.
It's true.
Oh
And now
god.
we shan't survive. So
Oh! I didn't mean for this to be popped in. There we go. Just pop that out. Whoa. So, for those that don't know where we're starting from, I guess a little bit of context before this. Also, that's so mean of you, Duck. Duck is saying, I hate everything about this cover. Wow.
I like the cover.
I like the cover too. Wow. Okay. Well, hopefully you'll like 18's cover more when we get there. Yeah, this is an interesting opening. We just came out of the Sentinel story, which I actually gave you that story as another option for us to discuss, and I love that you picked this over the Sentinels. I feel like I'm so happy because when I went back and read this, I was like, this is more fun than the
This
Sentinels.
has so many moments and things, and it gives you enough context of what happens with the Sentinels that we feel like we're in the Sentinel aftermath. We know that something very serious happened. And I like this one as well because you get to see more of the relationship evolving between the mutants and the humans, and they're really trying to like establish what Professor X's role is and the way that he's trying to present them and pretend that he kind of knows them but doesn't, and just
Oh my gosh, what his role is. That's gonna be a fun one. I would like love if everyone in chat would like to, think about and share with us what you think Professor X's role is, because I have some notes on that as we get through this issue. There's some stuff we should talk about. I like also this page as we open because it reminds me of Where's Waldo. Like it just gives me a Where's Waldo vibe.
mm.
Like there's like hidden props that are supposed to be hidden in this picture and I have to find them. There aren't, but I wish there were. So
What's interesting to me about this is that for the rest of this issue, slight spoiler skipping ahead, Iceman's gonna be just dying, but on this opening one, he's just standing there with the army officer going like, "Your pulse is impossible, son." It really doesn't.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I was gonna talk about that later when he's like all of a sudden like in a coma. And I'm
Yes.
like, but I guess maybe the idea is like here his pulse is impossible. Maybe it's because it's really fast. Like to me the implication would be that it's like non-existent because he's Iceman. But maybe the implication is like something's already wrong with him here and he's gonna, or they just forgot. That's
I
also
think you may
possible.
be giving too much credit because I feel like there's a lot of people forgot in this because there's a lot of repetition. Also, I noticed in some of the dialogue where people will say
And
exactly
some
the
of the
same thing.
panels.
Yeah, that they
Yeah,
said
yeah,
before.
and some of the art. Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's also interesting because 17. Before we jump in, I guess I should give us some
Mm.
credits. Credit where credit is due. Story by Stan Lee. Layouts by Jack Kirby. But Jack Kirby does not do the art on this.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel Alan Moore in my mind. I can just like hear him talking about reading the scripts and I'm just like, oh my gosh. So do with that what you will. I'm not gonna say anything beyond that. I don't think. I don't want to be too spicy. But pencils by Jay Gavin, inks by Dick Ayers, lettering by Artie Simek. So yeah. And this team pretty much stays the same, except that Jack Kirby doesn't get any credit in the next issue. So also do with that what you will. I don't know. Anyways, into the issue we go.
That
So
was shady.
I don't know. Maybe he didn't work on that issue. I don't know what happened. Um, but in this next one, we jump into also. Oh, wait, I should say before we move on, I love Stan Lee. So just saying that Stan Lee's great.
Well, it's just in this era, we all know there was some roughness, some looseness, some flying by the seats of pants, some questionable credits at points. It's part of this era.
Yeah, like I think the question also becomes of like when we say writing or when we say story, like what does that mean, right? Like it could mean a variety of things to a variety of people. So it also depends on I think how it's interpreted and we see that interpretation evolve throughout the history of comics. So not to throw any shade to anyone at this time period, but more of
No,
like
particularly with the
in
Marvel
retrospect.
method as it
Yes.
evolves and
Yes.
that back and forth, which can account for some very interesting happenings. Like when it works, it really works, but it also leaves room for a lot of potential errors or mistakes when it doesn't.
Yes. Yeah. I 100% agree with that. Also, I just feel like, as well, there was this whole war that continues today somewhat. Well, I think it's less of a thing today, but just between like artists and writers and like who's really like the person that's steering a story. And I think we've hopefully gotten to a place where we kind of see it as like being more of a 50-50 because I do think it's a 50-50 a lot of the times. But that was also, I think, just more it was defined in a very like firm way of like if you're a writer, like writers were almost above artists, even though without artists you don't have a comic. So it was a weird time. So we see everybody here in various degrees of being unwell. I also love how Professor X here is now, so he's not affiliated with the X-Men yet, guys. So here he's trying to keep a low profile, and he's
Yes.
trying to say like don't like at me, like I'm not connected to these people. However, we did just fight the Sentinels in like kind of the middle of nowhere. Um and Professor X is kind of just like, "Oh, I just like was like here and I was kind of involved in this, but I have nothing to do with these people." And I love how he just tries to play it off when it's
Well, there's
so
this panel that I find very
sus.
interesting here. It's the second one, where after he goes on about how, oh, I'm just a civilian advisor and all of that,
Oh, that's not what I
he
wanted.
has this moment where the officer is giving them credit and saying, I have a lot of apologizing to do for, how we've looked at you. But then he says, that's why I decided to release my mental hold over your mind so the X-Men would get due credit.
Yeah, I know. Also, what a shady. This is so shady. I'm like, okay. What is Professor X's role? He is a man that controls people's minds to protect the X-Men.
Well, right now, because basically what that's implying is that he's only letting this go because it's positive, and that if it was negative, we'd be seeing some earlier issue Professor X, or maybe they just need to forget everything and we can pretend this never happened. We'll just wipe some more
Yes.
minds because that was very much a thing that happened in the earlier issues.
There's also an implied, to me it was implied anyways, mind wipe that happens later on in this story, in the next issue. And I'm very
Mm.
curious to see what your interpretation of that is when we get there. But yeah, Professor X is always asking himself, do I need to be wiping people's minds or can I let this go?
To
That's
wipe or
what
not to
stuff.
wipe, but like for minds.
So they end up getting sort of to the hospital. And when we're there, yes, Bobby is in like critical care. Like everyone else is
Yes.
just kind of being checked out, but Bobby is
He's the worst off of all of them. He is just
in a
not
coma,
okay.
delirious. Yeah, he's. And I also love that um, when Professor X comes in here, he. Oh, maybe this is later on. Does he do it here? Oh, he basically tries to ask him. Oh no, that does happen later. But later on, he's going to basically ask him to like make sure he doesn't leave his ice form, even though this is a guy that's about to die. Like I was like, maybe we could let someone reveal who they are here
No, secret identity is paramount.
first.
100% paramount.
You'll die before you release your secret identity, and if you don't agree with me, I'll mind wipe you, says
Yeah,
Professor X.
down to the point where it's like questionable whether they'll contact parents or not. He's like, maybe we should contact his parents.
Oh my
That happens later
gosh.
too.
Also, speaking of parents, that kind of brings us into the next part where um later on, Professor X is kind of thinking about this because the doctor says when he's inspecting Beast, like, oh, it would be really cool if we could know who people's parents were because we could learn so much about mutants. Oh my
Yeah, and like
gosh.
how it's passed on, the science.
Yeah, the science. And then Professor X is basically like, oh no, that would be like the worst thing if people found out about these people's parents. That's like our weak link.
Yes,
Because
that's
the
what he
parent.
says it right here. What a hold he would have over us.
Also, the weird implication of this being almost immediate foreshadowing, or I don't know if it's just to build up, like, maybe the drama of the idea of, like, oh, that would be the worst thing. So then when we have, like, Angel's parents come into it, it's building up of, like, why that's such a bad case scenario.
Except
Uh,
that it does not go in the direction that you would anticipate based
no,
on what is set up here. Oh, and
no.
our top panel on this page is the one that I sent you. And it is part of the
Yes.
reason why I wanted to do these issues. So I sent you the original panel on Discord because
Yes.
this panel we have here is not the original panel. There is a very subtle change that has occurred, and it's in the discussion between Beast and Professor X, and they change
I'm gonna
one
bring it
word.
up.
It's literally a one word change. So here we have Professor X saying to him, act as though I'm merely a casual friend. No one must suspect I'm actually your leader. But then what he says out loud is, here, no Beast. He is still on the critical list. The poor lad is delirious.
The
But
poor lad.
in the original panel, he actually says, no McCoy. So, what that very subtly means is that despite him saying all of our secret identities are paramount, he just outs him and outs that he knows him. and
That
that he's actually connected with him by
that
accident.
is actually hilarious. Let me see if I can bring it up. This is my StreamYard experience is coming
Yeah, you
to
gotta go with
mark
present,
it
and then you
up.
gotta like pull it, and it's a whole thing.
Do I have to, can I just pull it as a slide?
Yeah, you can
So,
add it as a slide.
because when
It
I
should,
do
in
that,
theory, just go
upload,
up as a slide. So
it's telling me this is like, it won't show me my, oh, maybe because it's a PNG? No, it just won't show me my, I think I can drag and drop it. Let's see if this works.
we'll use the technology.
The tech,
I am,
we'll
and
use the power of magnetism.
for me, I am sad that they made this change. I understand why they did, because obviously it makes him look pretty silly to have that error in there, and it's funny. But I like when they leave original things like that in. In an ideal world, what I would have happen is maybe have the corrected panel, but still have the original panel somewhere available for viewing, in maybe as an extra or just as a note or something to show that the change has occurred. There's just something that rubs me a bit the wrong way of just kind of pretending like it never happened. And I know it's just this small thing, like there it is.
There it is.
But I think it's good to preserve these things. I think it's funny and I think it's fun. I think it demonstrates the growing pains of this time, and obviously how rushed they were, and that nobody caught that he's directly contradicting himself in this moment.
I mean, I also don't
So
think it's like that much, like it's not that big, like it is a big deal if you're humming and hawing over the details, which we all kind of do, I guess, but I didn't even notice it when you first sent it to me because I was so distracted by like the complete like recoloring of it that I thought they had just like completely changed the colors, and that's what it was. Like I went right over my head.
it's because
So,
conceivably he could have heard the name, like, there are ways.
yeah.
Like, it is a mistake, but I don't think it's the biggest one. I like these little moments without them changing them back. So I was kind of sad when I saw that for all the digital and the reprints, they're like, nope, it never happened. Pretend he always said Beast. Professor X did not make a mistake, which is even funnier because he's worrying about that in the last page about, will Drake be my first mistake?
Like, it's
So
also funny because the amount of mistakes that Professor X makes in this era is like, I mean, morally, maybe some might say, is interesting to me that they're like, no, this is the thing that we can't let Professor X mess this up. Like, I'm like, okay, but we're cool with the mind wiping. All right, fair enough, Marvel.
that's fine, but he can secret identities. Again, that's the
Yeah,
most important thing.
secret identities. It's all about the secret identities and maintaining them. And that's actually kind of what, like, all of this becomes about as well,
Yes.
which is that's like basically most of this issue is just Professor X like running around and just being like, oh wait, like just a heads up, like psychically, like don't reveal, like could you just not reveal your secret identity, like
Pretend not
please.
to know me, but also drive me home, which was one of my
Also
favorite
try.
points.
That's the funniest thing at the beginning, and that's the other thing I was talking about, where he comes in and he's like, oh, like I just was like also involved in this, but I don't know these people. But then he's also like, also maybe one of them would like drive me home, and he says it multiple times.
Yes.
Like I'm like, he's like, I don't know anyone, but maybe they'll drive me home. Just a thought, like, do you think one of them might drive me home?
They
And then at
seem like
one
such
point,
nice young lads.
yeah, and at one point he's like getting Scott to also wheel him around. And I'm
Yes.
like, this is so suspicious. Like, if I was working at this hospital, I'd be like, I think he knows. I don't
Well,
need him to say McCoy for me to be like, I
well,
think
this
he
one
knows these
too,
people.
where Angel has the phone and he's just like, "Can you just please give me that phone, young man?"
I know. It's like, while he's on the phone, like, oh, could you just give me that so I can talk to these
Whoever you were talking.
strangers I don't know who's on the phone, but I think it's for me. Like, so suspicious. Also, the amount of times he's clutching his head, I'd be like, do you need to be inspected? Like, are you all right? He's acting super suspicious this whole time. So, what happens is they do get a phone call. It is Warren's parents. They have decided to randomly visit, even though the professor says, no, we have
Exams.
exams, and this is not a good time. They don't care. So, because they're rich people. So, they're like, we're coming anyways.
Well, she's like, we're only gonna stay for a few minutes. She's like, we're gonna pop in. We wanna see him. You know, we haven't seen him for a while. So, which in all fair, very fair. Like, what are they doing at
Fair.
this school?
Yeah, like, right, like, we're kind of suspicious, is maybe what's going on. But I just love how the professor really tries to be like, well, it's like exam time now, so it's not. And she's like, no, 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 like, it's happening. Like, we're coming anyways. So he's like, well, I did my best. I told them there were exams, but they don't care, so they're coming. And Angel is sent off to make sure that everything is okay at the X Mansion.
Because he's having this kind of premonition. He's like, I'm having a sense that something is wrong, and my hunches are never wrong. So you have to go and check this out.
I'm a man of many hunches, says Professor X. I also, though, he says something about he says like this sense of menace I cannot shake. And I'm just like, it sounds so also like not like he doesn't know what it is. He knows it's like seems really bad. And yet he's like, I'm just going to send Angel by himself. Who I don't wanna hate on Angel. You know I love Angel, but seems like kind of the worst person to send for that mission.
Well, he has to send Angel because at this point, I believe Angel is the least, he's the least injured as well out of the people. Or is Jean also uninjured? It's him.
Can we just take a quick look at the beginning again? Let's see how everyone's doing.
Because they list off what's wrong with the people.
Right. Jean's got a blanket. Beast's foot's messed up. What's wrong with Cyclops again?
Oh, he says in the ambulance he's pretty much okay, but he's just got some bumps and bruises.
So why couldn't you send Cyclops with
and his dread power?
His dread power, yeah. He's like, I can't go. I'm too emotionally wrought with my dread power. Yes, that is also, if you guys have not watched the Blob live that we did on Sasha's channel on CasuallyComics, you need to watch it so you can get the full impact of the dread power as we talk about it now. But yeah, I just think it's an interesting choice. That's what I'm gonna say, to send Warren by himself. It goes about as well as you would expect it would, sending Angel to a very dangerous, mysteriously dangerous place by himself. We have a mystery figure at the door. Angel doesn't seem to really fully understand doors as well. That's established. He says, that's strange. The door always locks automatically behind us when we leave. And I'm like, does he not know how keys work?
Well, you know, it could be one of those special security doors. I'm going to give Angel a benefit of the doubt because he's about to be beaten so badly in the next few panels.
Yeah, Angel basically gets an axe thrown at him mysteriously, like it just flies at him. He dodges it pretty well, gotta say, even though I think it turns into a lance. Oh no, it just has like a different, it looks a little different here. It looks more like a lance from this angle, but
it's because it's already been like embedded into the door.
The door is not going to be automatically locking anytime soon, although I'm pretty sure the door shows up completely unscathed later on, so don't worry too much about the door. Continuity. And Angel does recover by dodging it, but then he decides he's going to fly super fast towards a voice that he hears.
Well, it's because this this issue has traps. It has so many traps. This is the early 60s Home Alone of just mansion traps for what's going on in here.
Oh, Vito is asking, have either of you made a video about Unis? He is really overlooked. I love Unis. I have not. Have you?
No? I have not.
Maybe we'll have to collab and talk about Unis, because I do love Unis. Yes, Unis the Untouchable. Does not get enough respect, honestly. I feel like Unis is pretty powerful, speaking of cool villains. This is also really interesting to me, because obviously we've already spoiled what the reveal is, so I think I can safely...
You feel like it's safe to say who it is? We can reveal the master of magnetism?
Spoiler, it's Magneto. But I do love that Magneto in this, I almost said episode, in this issue.
It's because of all the X-Men 97 stuff we've been doing. So that's why. It's because it's on the brain.
In this issue, though, he is obsessed with booby traps and death traps, and I was thinking to myself, do you think Magneto would be the best suited X-Men villain maybe other than Arcade, to be Jigsaw in like an X-Men story.
If you were basing it off of this story, then I would say yes.
Yes.
In
Reasonable.
general, no. But this is very much the early Magneto era where he
kind of all over the place.
He's what the story needs him to be. He's astral projecting. He's doing all these traps. It's just whatever.
Yeah, it's very whatever in this story for sure. As it gets more whatever as we go, in the most beautiful way, I think.
It does.
So we go back to the hospital. Angel obviously is not doing so hot. He, that screen dropped. He went right through it. He's KO'd. And meanwhile, Cyclops they're going to check his eyes. And that's obviously a no-no because his dread powers.
And yeah, and they have to really, this scene is more, I think, to establish what his powers are so that maybe if you're coming in, but it's also to fill time, I think, as well. There's some light padding happening here before Professor X asks him to wheel out. And we start to establish the order of who can go because we're very much in, and then there were none kind of territory. We're going to start picking them off one by one, which Magneto is excited about. Actually, he's having fun with it.
Yes, he's having like way too much fun with it. Honestly, I also do love that once again, Professor X is coming in to tell people, just a reminder to make sure people don't know who you are. I feel like does he just tell, I wonder if he tells them this like every day, like every time they go out, like he's just like, just a reminder again.
You don't know me.
You don't know me. Don't reveal your identity. I know we've been over it a million times. So I just want to make sure you're like, So they end up driving over to the school, and yes, we get some more hilarious death traps here. This is my favorite. I don't know, actually. This one...
But the Cerebro one?
The Cerebro one. And the fact that it is here established... Well, established, I mean, it's basically said like we've already known our whole lives. If you guys didn't know, then I'm surprised, because what happens with Professor X is he is taken out by a mechanical mental wave distorter, which is, of course, the one type of weapon that he can't fight, as we all know.
Well, what I love about him this issue is he keeps saying my mutant brain a lot. It's the one thing my mutant brain could not overcome. My mutant brain did not foresee this coming.
My mutant brain.
These panels are great, though, and the early Proto-Cerebro is so disturbing looking. I really enjoy it before it gets that more cozy helmet look where it looks like it's literally jacking into him.
Yes, it is very creepy, and I also love, like, even the sound that Cerebro makes here. It's like... I'm like, that just sounds like horrifying. This is kind of a horror comic in some ways, actually, weirdly.
In the ways they're being picked off, there are some moments. Cyclops has it too when he's fighting in darkness. Like some of these, they're really evocative.
I love how for Cyclops, the thing to defeat him is the darkness as well. Like, they drop the shield, and so obviously... Cyclops tries to blast it, which has an adverse effect, and he actually gets pushed back, which I kind of love. Like, I was like, oh, that's, like, so scary for Cyclops. And then, other than that, it's like, the way that Magneto defeats him here is just basically by turning off the lights and punching him in the head. Like, it was like, Professor X gets such a creative way to be taken out, and Scott just gets smacked in the head in the dark. His one weakness. Darkness.
Well, he also talks about it too. He's like, by using only my hammering fists so that you still cannot be certain what my true power is.
Yeah. Wasn't worried about that for Angel though. I guess he thinks that, like maybe that Scott's like one of the smartest of the bunch is I think what he's saying. He's giving him some pretty big credit here.
Well, Scott's established by this point at this era as being the most powerful. Like they've said that more than once, so
and they do also play with that a lot in this story, where he is constantly like the one to like defeat every challenge in some way. He's pretty crucial. But we still have some X-Men left. So back at the hospital, Beast is clearly feeling better and he's bouncing around, and we get this very strange scene between him and Jean where he's just like really rude to Jean for pretty much no reason.
For no reason. Yeah. It's so bizarre where he goes through this entire sequence of panels where he's just not calling her by her name. And he's just calling her various versions of female. He's like, female, woman,
wench.
Wench. Yes, he calls her a wench.
I'm just like, okay, I understand that you're just going through your synonyms here, Beast, but this feels weirdly sexist of Beast. And they end up deciding, despite the fact that Beast is literally acting like kind of a fool here, they decide to team up anyways to go see what's up with the rest of the X-Men because they all left and they haven't seen them and they're worried about that. Which I also love this because we get to see, I think, what's a rare treat. Anyone, let me know in the chat if this is not, but we get to go to the X-Mansion, and the way that Jean goes with her powers is she kind of like makes herself levitate / borderline fly. And I feel like this is a thing that sometimes comes up in this era, but is not usually brought up, that Jean can kind of fly.
What made me chuckle was that Beast has to remind her that she has telekinesis. He's like, and you have telekinesis. She's, of course, I forgot. I can float myself.
Oh, yes. Is that my power? It's like, but I once again, I feel like sometimes they just like have to nerf Jean, because when you think about telekinesis, it's like,
well, I feel like this is a case of we have these word balloons, but we're not sure what to put there, because I'm like,
right.
looking at the logic of this panel, I'm like, nobody leaps out the window if they don't know how they're going to land. You wouldn't have already leapt and then be like, of course, I can
forgot.
float.
It's like, Jean, what did you think would happen? She was like, I thought I'd jump out the window and die, but...
Like, we were jumping. People were jumping, so I just jumped.
I just did it. Oh my gosh. Maybe she was like, I thought my power was flight for a second. Like, I thought I was Angel for a minute. I got confused. I'm just a wench. And then off they go to the mansion, levitating and jumping all their way there. And Beast has this like heroic moment of like, don't worry, Jean, like I'm gonna rush in first to like protect you because you're a woman. And it doesn't work out so great because everything has been waxed now. Also, the door is intact again. Yay.
He's had some time. It took them a while to get there.
Magneto's been like repairing the door. Like he repaired the door, and then everyone else came in, I guess, and then knocked out Scott and discombobulated Professor X.
And then he waxed.
Distorter, and then he waxed, yes. You know, I will say, like, I feel like Magneto would be really good at chores. Like, I feel like he's probably a chore master. He probably keeps things really tidy. That's what I'll say. So, of course, Beast gets wiped out by going through a chute, I think is what's happening here.
This page actually has one of my favorite panels on it at the bottom with Jean, where it's playing with the whole "we meet again for the last time" trope. But I just really like the way that it's laid out. It's just it's so balanced. It's like perfectly balanced with the way her "you" is beside her and the dialogue, and it's just a very dynamic panel. I also
just love like the progression like of these panels, like especially when you're reading them in like the like panel to panel. Ugh, I think Jean has the best elimination. Because I feel like it makes her seem like she's harder to defeat than others. Like, let's think about this. What did Angel get? He got the screen. Flew into it. Professor X, he is the distorter. Sure.
Cyclops got punched in the head.
Cyclops got punched in the head. Beast got waxed. And Jean has to be knocked out by sleeping gas.
Where there's this interesting moment where her powers are just weakening and she's not sure why at the start, which is very, very interesting. And the explanation, I feel like some would want to fill it in with the helmet, but the helmet doesn't do that yet. So it's sleep gas.
Yeah, so it's sleep gas. Yeah, and I like the idea that initially Magneto's kind of like, your power, like, it will do nothing. Like he said, so you chose not to answer me. You prefer to keep struggling till the end. And he calls her pathetic. And he says that she has feeble kinetic powers. But then I'm like, but you have to use sleeping gas to take her out. So I was like, in a way, I feel like he's actually like the one thing I'm not good at dealing with. And it's kind of established with how he feels about Charles, I think, as well, is the idea of, like, psionic powers or something that make
these are the ones you need to take out the most.
Yeah. That and Scott, obviously, because he's the most powerful one. But yeah, and then Jean, like, passes out. It's also, like, weirdly flirty, this interaction, for some reason. Probably because it's Jean, and everyone flirts with Jean. But there she is, passed out. So that's the end of Jean, and now all we have left is Bobby.
Who's dying, pretty much.
Who's dying. And these reporters that weirdly try to interrupt this doctor in the middle of, like, the emerge. I don't even know how they got in here. And I love how this, I will say, I kind of want, like a one-shot on this doctor who just, like, talks to these reporters, and they're just like, you gotta give us the scoop on these, like, mutant patients that you have, doc. And he's like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm a doctor. I don't have time for this. I have to go save a person's life. I don't care about your readers. They can all go jump in a lake. It's just like, he's so passionate about protecting his patients, regardless of whether or not if they're humans or mutants.
No, he's very invested in it.
He's so invested in it. And I was like, especially when this is when we're kind of really starting to get that creep in of, like, there's humans and there's mutants.
It's starting to become more established. They talk about it a little bit in the opening few pages where they're like, oh, I thought this about you because of your mutants and you're kind of scary. So, like, we're starting to get that become more of a recurring motif. But then we also still have, of course, what's happening next with this wonderful death trap.
Oh, I love this death trap so much. It's the best one. Also, Hero, we're talking about issue 17, in case you were wondering.
Yes.
This is issue 17, and then we'll be talking about issue 18. This is the end of issue 17 because the death trap is revealed. And it is revealed just in time, too, as the Worthingtons are arriving. This is definitely a case of, we got some bubbles here, we got to fill them with stuff. Their conversation in the car. They're like, what are they talking about? Arriving at the school, until they go, oh, whoa, we've arrived. They're like, soon we'll be arriving at the school. Oh, wait, we have arrived at the school.
I actually like what they put in here because they raise some questions in here about why Xavier has so few students and bring up the idea about him being independently wealthy. So even though I'm not sure if they're trying to, they are establishing some things and some questions people could have about the school.
It also fits with your idea at the beginning of, like, they are not going to take no for an answer because they're like, we haven't seen our son in a long time, and, like, we're coming to check on him because this seems suspicious. It kind of fits right in with that narrative as well, actually, of them kind of just being like, it is weird what he does.
He's got, like, what, like 5 students?
Yeah, like, how is this school operating? So they arrive at the door as, the xmen are soaring above them in this weather balloon.
Which is sending them up to space. And then they're going to run out of air. It's a whole thing. They're going to go up there.
It's so elaborate. I love it. He's like, they're going to go up, they're going to run out of air, and they'll slowly die. It's also so terrible. Like, what a terrible way to defeat your enemies. Suffocating them in a weather balloon where no one will suspect anything because they'll just think it's a weather balloon. Also, why do they have spaces in weather balloons for people to climb into and possibly be suffocated? Is that a normal design? Custom made. Oh, there's so much work in these traps. So, of course, who's revealed at the door when they get there?
But he has my favorite line buildup, and they say it twice. They say it in this one, and they say it in the next one, which is, "Oh, but who are you? I am power. Men call me Magneto."
Men call me. Yes.
Which is such an intro.
I am power. Like, imagine getting to a door and someone greets you like that. Should I just greet the next person that, like, comes to deliver something? I just say, and they're like, oh, like, are you, like, Amanda? I'm gonna be like, I am power. Men call me Amanda McKnight. Like, how epic. And also in the outfit, like...
He looks so menacing. We haven't hit peak Magneto faces, which we'll get in the next issue, but this is still, like, they already had questions about this school, and then this is what's happening when you get to the door.
Yeah, it's like, maybe there is something weird about this school, actually. I can't put my finger on it, but something feels off. Yeah, I love this page. This is one of my favorite X-Men pages, I think, of all time. This is, like, top 5 for me. I love it that much.
No, this is the one you sent me when you were like, this story?
This story, the best. And this page says it all. So next issue, we get to check out the most imaginative, unexpected thriller of the season. Chock full of wonders you've been hoping to see, and others you never thought possible. We personally give X-Men 18 our highest recommendation, and you know how hard it is, how hard to please we are. I mean, like, you wrote it, didn't you? You guys made it. Like,
I would
you
hope
would
you
say
like it.
that. Like, could you imagine if they were like, it's awful, don't read it? Like, so yeah, we gotta tune in for the next episode,
Of
next issue,
course.
because it's gonna be crazy. And that is the end of issue 17. My brain. So yeah, what did you think? What did you think of that issue?
I love this issue a lot. I really do. It's a lot of fun. The traps are fun. I enjoy the trope of, oh no, they're being picked off one by one. Everything is so elaborate. And the way that Professor X is trying to hide his identity is so convoluted. And it all comes together though. Like you do feel that there is some tension, some stress, and it does leave you curious. It does leave you wanting to know what's going to happen. And the second half really reinforces the first half because where it goes is not where you are expecting it to go in the slightest.
Not even close. It's like you think you know where this is going, you do not. And that is also what I really love about it. Also, a shout out to Danny who shared his 3-stream streak over on Twitch. Thank you so much for joining us again, Danny. Danny was also saying Jack Kirby was the best guy ever. Jack Kirby was pretty great. I will agree with you there. And Shy Hustler, thank you so much for following over on Twitch, by the way. Also, sorry, friends, if you're subscribing or doing anything on Twitch, like, that doesn't pop up in this thing, so I have to, like, periodically check.
Yeah, the multiple monitor experience.
Multiple monitors, yeah. It's like, thank God I have multiple monitors too. Sometimes I think about, like, what if I remember I used to stream on a laptop and I'm like, I was like streaming on such hard mode. Like, multiple monitors is so needed. Yes, I feel like, Critter Nation, I like that you're also writing down to add to your many notes of things that I've said. Yes, please put that on there. Actually, I'm gonna make that like my new, I think, official title. That I am power. I am power. Yeah, this was a really good one, but it gets even better somehow, if you can believe that.
It depends on your definition of better. I would argue that it gets better. Some people might argue it jumps the shark and goes off the rails, but we shall see.
Yeah, I personally would agree with you in saying it definitely gets better. At least, yeah, in my perspective, better. What is better, really? Let's talk about that. In X-Men 18, if Iceman should fail.
This is the Bobby issue. So for people who felt that he was spending too much time dying in the last issue, you're gonna get your fill in this one.
And he's like really coming in, really like, I just actually really love this issue for Bobby too. I just love that we're dealing with the fact that Bobby, sort of in the previous arc as well, is kind of feeling like useless. And kind of feels like he maybe doesn't do as much on the team because he's the youngest. And he really gets to, I think, come into his own a little bit in the story. And I think it's a nice little, like, overarching arc for his character. So, oh, I might have to refresh. Sorry, give me a second. How embarrassing. Sometimes this happens with Marvel Unlimited when you are...
It doesn't like when you're inactive?
Yeah, it doesn't like that. It's like, are you reading it or not? Like, make up your mind. Oh, that's not what I want. Oh, here we go. There we go. There it is. All right. Okay, let's zoom out of this. And yeah, this is If Iceman Should Fail. So we get a nice recap. I also love how they basically say in this recap, we're never going to recap again. So, like, don't get used to this. But we're going to tell you what happened in the last issue. And I'm like, well, because if they know...
If you didn't, you would have no idea. It would be so like, what is happening?
Jarring of like, what? Why are the X-Men in this balloon? Like, what's going on? It's true. Why is Bobby like on the verge of death? Yeah, this is correct. But they will recap things again in the future, friends. Spoiler alert. If you've read modern comics, we do it.
I do like how they recap this one, though, because you get to see it from a slightly different perspective. Like, you're getting to see more of Magneto and his gloating and his initial plans to maybe take the mansion and then not take it.
It's the best. I love this. So the creative team is the same as last time, minus Jack Kirby. maybe not involved with this issue. I don't know what's going on, but they decided get him out of here. They're like, he's busy. He's got to do other Jack Kirby things. So we jump to, yes, Magneto being like, I've basically won. Like Bobby's left, but who cares? I'm gonna smash this mansion, and then being like, just kidding, lols. Like maybe I'm a little hasty.
Well,
Maybe,
it's
like,
more to it's
could
to
be
show
my
off
mansion.
his magnetic power, because he's like my matchless magnetic power that can
I mean, he
lift
did lift a
mansions.
whole mansion. That's pretty impressive. I'm impressed. I kind of wanted him to smash it, though. I'm not gonna lie. When I first read this, I was like, yeah, smash it. I dare
But he
you.
needs it for his headquarters.
I mean, do you think the piping's okay after
No.
this? No.
Well, he reconnected it. I'm sure magnetism, because
Oh, yeah,
this story is gonna show you the true breadth of what magnetism can accomplish.
this is where we really get into the title of this stream. Does Magneto know how magnets work? You in chat can be the judge. And please feel free to discuss with us. How do magnets work? Does anyone know? Are there any magnet experts? Because we're gonna have some questions. So he puts the mansion down, he puts everything back, but he decides I'm gonna destroy Cerebro because I'm a jerk like that. And Cerebro, well, also Cerebro
Well, no,
is
because
really annoying.
Cerebro's function is a bit different, because here its function
Yes.
is to monitor and seek out dangerous mutants. So it's something that
My
alerts
question
them.
for this has always been, how does it know the difference? Like, is it because Charles programmed it that way?
It's got some really good AI in there. Just kidding. It just knows it's Magneto. It's like,
It
oh,
just
he's
knows.
up to no good.
However, I will say at this point, I would say Cerebro is kind of inconsistent with how it's used, because when the Blob was discovered in the issue that we talked about, the Blob wasn't seen as an evil mutant, right? They were just like, we can sense there's a mutant around. Like,
Yeah, but
we're
he
picking
didn't
it
use
up.
Cerebro for that. That was
Oh,
just
did he just use his mind?
he was just generally sensing, because
Oh,
in
just
that one
generally sensing.
he builds the psychic gun in that one.
That's his device. No Cerebro. Okay, so that's good. But so Cerebro probably didn't pick up the Blob, or it wasn't created yet, maybe, because that was very early on, actually. So maybe we didn't have it yet. But it is weird that it can specifically tell who's dangerous and who's not, who's bad and who's good. It's basically Santa Claus, but for mutants. That's what we have with Cerebro right now.
I like that there's a foom as well. We have a foom sound effect.
Foom. Yeah, it's not what I would imagine this would sound like, actually. But I love the way it's drawn. I love the letters for the foom, I gotta say. So if you forgot, just a quick recap. Yes, the Worthingtons are still here.
They just showed up.
They just showed up. And if you're wondering about the order of things, it is established that he lifted the mansion, put it down, then the Worthingtons show up, then he answers the door.
Yes.
They weren't in there when that happened, in case you were concerned. Like I was when I started this issue the first time I read it. I was very worried for the Worthingtons. I was like, what happened to them? Did they die? Are they in the mansion? Are they okay? They're fine. Well, fine. They're gonna be how do you want to explain this, Sasha? What's happening here with
Okay, so after he gives them the wonderful I am power, men call me Magneto, come in, and then invites them into the mansion, they're obviously confused and a little concerned. And so he uses his power of magnetic attraction to hypnotize them.
Yes.
He summons the power and just tells them they're feeling very sleepy, and that they should go upstairs and have a nap.
Yeah, because that's how magnets work, guys. You can just magnetically suggest things to people. I know this. I'm a person that has many magnets on my fridge, and when anyone is too close to my fridge, I could suggest that they make me dinner, and they always do. And I'm pretty sure it's not because they're just being nice and they want to cook for me. It's because of the magnets. Just FYI. You should try it. I would recommend. So that is what ends up happening here, and they, of course, are compelled. They must obey the master of magnetism.
And it's so good they won't come down unless he summons them.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So he thinks that. He thinks that's what's about to happen. I'll let them know when I'm ready for them.
And so now all that's left is Iceman, who he's still not concerned about at all.
Also, if remember when we talked about how the parents were the weakest link and we thought we knew what that meant?
Yeah.
I want you guys to keep that in mind, because
Yeah, put a pin in it.
put a pin in that for a second. We're gonna go back to the hospital where we're preparing a giant laser to shoot Bobby with sulfa drugs, experimental sulfa drugs.
He's got this special gun that'll penetrate his skin, because that was the problem. They weren't able to measure anything because he was frozen. So we couldn't
Yes.
get any accurate readings. We couldn't tell what was going on. But now we have this.
Do you know what sulfa like substances are supposed to be as well?
Nope, we're just
They're antibiotics from the 1930s. Before we had penicillin, we had sulfa, and they're usually used to treat things like UTIs.
well, I mean, clearly that's what we need in this situation.
Clearly, I looked it up because I was just curious, like, oh, like what did they do? And they're like for like small bacterial infections. So I don't know what those sentinels were covered in, but I'm concerned. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't know. So we are gonna try that and see if it works, and then we kind of just have to like wait and like, you know, hope that this is gonna be successful. Which is unfortunate because meanwhile the X-Men are still trapped in this weather balloon.
But it's coming up with some of my favorite panels from this issue for Professor X, and explaining how he gets Cerebro off of his head.
I love this description, and I also love it because I feel like there's a couple things in here, and I know that Onslaught has not happened for a long time.
Yes.
It will not happen for a long time. But there are some seeds in here that you could totally pull out as being related, I think, to Onslaught. Ben is saying Franz Mesmer founded the notion of magnetic attraction between people. Magneto is thus mesmerizing. No joke.
Yeah, no, they're using it in the alternate sense of the word. They're using the concept of having a magnetically attractive personality, but applying it to the idea that since he's the master of magnetism, that means all magnetism, be it literal or figurative, like whatever. He can just use all.
He can do it. There's gonna also be some magnetism in this that is neither literal or figurative. It's just magnets. And I'm like, what does it mean? So Ben, I hope that you also have some things to say about that one, because I would really love your insight. Also, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate you. Yes. So basically what we get here is Magneto is, or sorry, not Magneto. Charles is going to bust off this mental wave distorter that has been somehow fastened to his scalp. I don't know, glue. I don't know how it just kind of levitated onto him from Magneto. So he must have put glue on it before he did that.
So our explanation is, but even he has overlooked one basic item. My ability to read minds and project my thoughts is due to the counter ego which I possess. Even now, that same counter ego is probing the distorter, applying as much stress and strain to it as is humanly possible. Counter ego.
Counter ego. And that's where I was like, Onslaught? Is that issue? Like, it is a weird thing because it almost implies that Professor X has this ability to, through sheer, like, I mean, the other way you can interpret it is it's basically a form of telekinesis. But I see it as more of like, he can think such destructive thoughts that he can literally cause destruction to happen.
Yeah.
There's
That's
a
how I
darker
interpret
side to
it.
him he's unleashing, basically.
It's
And
like,
also,
it's almost like the pressure of his psychic abilities is just building up because
he says the pain is increasing by the second. The pressure is almost unbearable, but I cannot stop now. I dare not stop now. And then there it goes. It's, oh my god, the build up here is the best.
I know.
The suspense. So he's applying more stress, and so he has a chance to smash it. And he just like is fully manifesting this pain, like his face is turning like beet red. And then look at this face.
I love this panel so much.
Kabak. Man, I did it.
My brain is unshackled. I love that phrase so much.
My brain is unshackled. If there's anything that we can take away from this story, it's I am power and my brain is unshackled. These are things we all need to say more in our everyday life. That's some homework for everyone at home watching or wherever you're watching from. Try to fit that in somewhere in your daily activity.
I feel like it'll be easier to fit my brain is unshackled than I am power.
I think I am power will be more entertaining to see how people react to when you say that one. I am power. So that works, and then Professor X is able to use his powers to wake up Jean and Hank and get them to wake I don't know why he doesn't just use his powers to wake everyone else up, but I guess maybe his mind is like feeling kind of tired from the unshackling that just happened. We also get this great panel. I love this of oh, that's not what I called. All right. We get this great panel here of Beast checking out Angel and like waking him up. And I love the implication here in the bubble where like Angel's basically implying that Beast is trying to like pull his head off. Like he's so rough with him. I guess Angel does have hollow bones, but like what is happening? I love that's what they decided to write here for this.
Well, it's like there's lots of talk in both of these issues about Beast and his abnormally large hands and feet, but it's not always the same in the art. They'll often be talking about it, but they're not often as large as one would imagine they should be for the way people are going on about it.
Yeah, that's also true. He just looks like a guy that's like, this is a weird way to like hold someone's head too. Like don't do that, Beast. I don't know. Beast is having he's having a weird few days, I feel like, and a weird day in this story, honestly. So everyone's awake, but unfortunately they don't know how to get out of the balloon. Because I think they say it here, right? If they pop it, it's, they're too high up now. So, and they could also lose all their oxygen.
Mm-hmm. So, and they say like, they also said they're going to worry about it a bit later. Like we're going to figure it out. We're going to
problem solve this. Let's go. Meanwhile, back at the X Mansion, Magneto is building a machine.
This machine was the point where I was not ready for this machine or what it did.
I love explaining this because when I explain it, like when I read it, I can accept it better, but when I have to say it out loud, it sounds so bizarre. Also, how, like, what, like, where are the pieces coming from? Like, I guess he's in the laboratory, but like they just happen to have like every piece he needs to build this very specific machine. Because if you guys are wondering what the machine does, as he explains, he is going to analyze the body cells of Warren Worthington's parents so he can duplicate them. And
because they have the ability to make mutants. So this was the whole thing about like, oh, if we know how humans work, we can create mutants. And Magneto's going to take this and go in the direction of slave mutant army.
Hence also why it would be terrible if the parents were taken. And I was like, that's never what I thought that would mean in my life. Oh my goodness. Yeah, all the spare parts from Cerebro Chem Dog. I like the idea of it. Yeah, these are just spare parts. They're just lying around.
I love this. Like
the laser gun maybe.
I'll be able to create additional mutants using the same cell patterns. It shall be simplicity itself. This is what simplicity looks like. Behold.
This is simplicity. So elaborate. I also feel like Ben, yes, this is the 60s still, I believe.
So we have to show that. It's coming over from the Hays Code, and then that's going to bleed over into the comics code.
Even though these people are old and married and have a son, they have to sleep in separate beds. And they're just having a nap.
We can't imply anything. We know what one bed means. It's a whole trope. There's only one bed. So
even though in this issue we're also going to imply that these two people, like with their cells, we can like make an army of mutants. Like I'm like, this is also kind of weirdly sexy.
Yeah, but as long as the beds are separate, it's fine.
Yeah, that's true. Then it's not sexy. Also, we have Magneto, who's gonna also be peering into this. Well, he's peering in here, but we're gonna get a better look at that. So, like, how can it be sexy if Magneto is peering in as he does with his very creepy face?
Well, what he's saying definitely
makes it more sexy. I'm not sure.
No, it does not. What he's saying with "when I am done, my army of mutant slaves will be large enough to easily conquer any force that mankind can throw against."
Yeah, you're right. That's not the most sexy to be saying, especially into a room. You're thinking this where there's humans literally there. If they were awake, they'd probably be. That's not very sexy. Kind of ruining the mood. Mags. So then we go back to the balloon where things are going terribly because they don't really have a plan yet, but Charles is basically like, Jean can use her kinetic powers to like try to push us down. Even though we've also established many times Jean's powers are not that great, apparently, but...
Except when they are.
Except when they're great. So she does her best, and Charles is going to use his... We also get this fantastic...
I love his shocked face when he learns that the parents have been captured.
Yes, which obviously is the worst thing that could have happened, because we all know what that means.
Mutant slaves.
Mutant slaves. Professor X is like, I hope they didn't go to my workshop and find all those parts for the machine that you could use to grab the cells to build a mutant slave army.
Why did I just leave them there?
Oh no. I never thought. So Angel's very worried about his parents, understandably, and Charles, though, needs to focus. And as we know, whenever he has to focus, he needs quiet and he needs everyone to get the heck away from him. Otherwise, he can't do his psychic magic. I also love that always comes up. Every time it comes up, yes, I am going to point it out because that's how much I love it. So he's trying to wake up Bobby, who he got the sulfa, so now he's
doing better.
He's doing better, and he is able to revive him, and then immediately tell him, like, you basically, like, I know you just almost died, and we're in a coma, but if you could, like, get up and, like, hurry on over, we're kind of all about to die. But he doesn't tell him that, actually. He kind of just says, like, get over here and then I'll give you more details, like, on the way.
Well, also, Bobby's excited because he's like, this is my moment. This is my time.
To prove myself. Yeah. Like, everyone thinks I can't do stuff because I'm young and, like, I joke around a lot, but this is my moment to be serious, Bobby. Also, oh yeah, we get the origin story of how Magneto got back to Earth, because for those who don't know, he was taken by the Stranger.
What I love about this is I feel like this was a bit of an afterthought, because there is some dialogue earlier where it's like, how did Magneto get here? And Professor X is like, I'll explain that later, because those panels come later in the issue. And so we'll talk about it then.
Where they talk about how in issue 11, he was taken away by the Stranger. So if you guys need to go back. Also, we love an editorial note. So thanks, Stan, for that one. And
we learned what happened.
Get the origin story. Basically, the short version is Magneto is terrible to Toad. He uses magnets and escapes on a spaceship that doesn't work anymore because magnets.
But also, they just left all those things there. He's the master of magnetism. Like, what if we just leave all of these metal ships just around? It'll be fine. Nothing will happen. He didn't need to leave Toad behind. Why did he leave?
He really did not need to. He really chose to be a jerk here. Also, the way he explains how he makes this ship work, he says, as for the atomic power plant, I can activate it in seconds by means of my matchless magnetic power. His new favorite catchphrase, my matchless magnetic power. Also, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? I don't know. Atomic power plant. There's an atomic power plant in the ship and he activated it? Okay. So, yeah, he kicks Toad out for no reason. Like, it's so heartless. Justice for Toad. He's always getting mistreated. And then Magneto just blasts off again, back to Earth. And that's how we got here. And I also like how Charles is like, wait, while we're trying to escape this, let's have an interlude to find out the origin story. Because I know we're all about to die, but I can't let it be a mystery before I die. Like, if I'm gonna die, I have to know how Magneto got back. Also, like, we all probably only have so much. Like, he also keeps going on about, like,
they're running out of air.
Oxygen to use our powers and to, like, breathe. And he's like, but wait, a quick interlude.
He's like, but all of you stop moving and stay back. But also, I'm going to tell you this story.
There's also a point where he says, like, everyone needs to... I think he says it actually right before this. Or is it this or after? He basically says at one point, like, everyone needs to...
Oh, he says it right here. He's like, as for the rest of you, do not speak. Do not move. We must not waste one precious iota of our remaining oxygen.
After telling them an origin story. And that's fine. He tells then Bobby psychically, like, look, here's what's up. Like, Magneto's in the mansion, and we need to like figure this out. And also, you're kind of on your own because I'm kind of busy doing stuff. So Bobby climbs a little ice ladder and peeps through the window and sees Magneto working this.
He's now got the tubes set up for the mutant clone things that he's about to create in this lab.
Oh my gosh. These tubes. Oh.
Well, also, some of the things he says here are just like, by means of my selector panel, I'll actually control the size and strength of the mutants I create. It's just all this from just having the parents right there.
Yeah, it is. He really knows what he's doing. I gotta give it to him. He's probably done this before. Do you think?
Or he's like tried at least. You know, this isn't the first attempt.
He's practiced in the mirror a lot for this moment. I also love that he's monologuing in this room by himself. Like, I know that that's always happening in the classic days, but whenever I think about it and then like I have this out of body experience and I just think about that happening, I'm like, this is hilarious. He's saying this to Bobby and to us, but really he's saying it to himself.
It says, and now my mutant production line is beginning to take form. From original conception to final creation, the process is perfect. It's just, he's so stoked that he's done this.
They'll overrun the earth, conquering all in the name of Magneto, looking up to like this. It's just very dramatic. I love it. It's so dramatic. So it's working pretty well. He's obviously they don't look anything like Angel, I gotta say.
No.
I don't.
Well, because remember, he got to select. This is what he wanted. This is perfect. He said it was perfect.
These are perfect. So they're all green guys, or maybe they just look green because they're under the tubes. They look very muscly, I will say. So probably capable. He said they're the max strength, so he's probably correct. Then we get this beautiful peeping Magneto picture as well, because Bobby decides he can't abide by this, so he makes a ice bridge to block the machine's rays from grabbing the cell information. Pretty smart. And Magneto, in his little peep window that he built, I'm assuming, I don't want to think that this was already in the mansion, so let's not go that far.
I love that this was the image that you used for announcing the stream.
I had to use this image because it was calling to me. It's one of my favorite Magneto faces, I think, that we have. There's so many good ones, though, to be fair. So yes, here he is, and he realizes that Bobby is interfering, so he's gonna go mess him up. And Iceman's like, uh-oh, that's not very good. But he has a plan, because, like Magneto, he has also set some death traps, which I love. He's like, I see your death traps, and I'll raise you.
I just love that he opens the door with that slam. It looks like an angry dad, like, busting into the room.
What are you doing in here, Bobby? Stop messing up my mutant slave army plans. So, yeah, Bobby does get away with, he uses an ice shield. I also love how Magneto's like, you can't defeat me because I'm the master of magnetism. But Bobby's like, I bet you didn't think about the fact that ice is like not metal, so... JK lol. Then he slides away, gets him stuck down a tunnel, and then I love this part where he thinks to himself, he won't be able to use his magnetic powers while he's off balance. Is that how that works?
I don't know how
off balance they can't use their powers.
I don't know how magnetism works at all anymore. After all of this.
Yeah, that's fair. Bobby's hoping. He's like, I hope that's how that works. I don't really know.
Well, like, hopefully he'll be distracted at least. He wasn't expecting the ice tunnel. No one expects the ice tunnel.
I mean, he was distracted until he got into the igloo, and then unfortunately, Bobby was not fast enough to get out of there. So that was the unfortunate part, is he thought he would be able to do this plan and then get out of the top, and he says, oh no, he sealed up the opening magnetically. How does this work, guys? Explain this magnets to me. We just established that he can't manipulate ice.
Well, listen, now you shall feel the power of Magneto as few have ever felt it before. So, you know, he was saving this for this moment.
Right. Right. He was like, this is the moment. Maybe there's metal outside on the lawn and he pulled that to cover it. An age-old rivalry of ice versus magnets. Yes. Who will win, ice or magnets? We just triggered my Google. My Google was listening to me. It wanted to know. It was like, I'll tell you who wins. Don't spoil it. But of course we have to cut away, which, can we also just say the pacing in this issue is so good? Like, I love it so much. It's so dramatic. Everything that happens is so dramatic.
No, it is. And it's just the right amount of time. Like, just when you're waiting to get back to them, up in there. Like, it really, really hits you with it.
They head back, and they're trapped in the balloon still. And finally, they're all about to basically pass out at this point. Which also, there is a moment where they basically, like, is it after this? He says silence, but I think there's another time when Magneto says it before that. And then he says, like, I'm going to go on this rant. Then he says silence again. And then I think he breaks it again. Yeah.
He does. Like, he's talking about, he's like, Iceman is in desperate danger. We can delay no longer.
Yeah. And I'm like, how many times have we talked about not talking? You could have just psychically said that, but I guess, you know, we're about to die anyways. So I guess why not talk? So then everyone starts talking, and everyone's talking about how they're, like, about to not be able to breathe. Beast here. I'm like, well, you're all talking, so that's probably not great.
I do like the method that they use to get down, but I also feel they could have tried it earlier.
Yes, I agree with you. I think the implication here, though, is it's a risky plan. And so I think they were kind of maybe
desperate.
Hoping... Yeah, I think they were hoping that Bobby could get back, defeat Magneto, and kind of help them, maybe, or they'd be able to figure out something better. And this is like, we're literally about to pass out, and Professor X is like, look, we're just going to have to pop the balloon. I know earlier I said don't pop the balloon, but I think I found a way. If you just poke a little hole and then we use Jean's powers, we better do this before Jean and Scott pass out, and before I pass out, because apparently Professor X is master of figuring out the right spot to poke in a balloon. So that's another power you didn't know he had. Stay tuned for that one on, like, you know, a top 10 powers of Charles list. If I do one of those, I'm putting that on there. Yeah. Surprise. He's very good at popping balloons. Or at least telling you how to pop a balloon. So they do it, and it works pretty well. No one's hurt. Everyone's fine.
No, they get there just in the perfect timing. Excellent timing.
Perfect timing. And then Scott can use this panel I also love with the zap. Oh, I didn't wear it, but I had this jacket that I literally put pins on to wear for this stream. I'll just show them to you guys really quickly, but I have this Magneto pin.
Oh, nice.
And I have this Cyclops pin. Okay, I'm going to put it on, but
I love the Cyclops. I love his beam coming out like that.
I love it. He says, out of the way. I'm unleashing my optic blast, which is a thing that he would say. I'm sad that it's not the tiger phrase, though, which I think is coming up. One of the best lines that Scott's maybe ever said about him being a tiger. So we go to face Magneto, and Charles is like, all right, well, get in there and save Bobby now, because Bobby's... What's happening here? Can we explain how he's about to die?
Because, okay, irresistible magnetic power shall melt you. He's gonna melt him.
He's like, basically, now you're the Wicked Witch, and I can melt you with magnets, because that's how magnets work. That's how magnets work. That's how magnets work? You can melt people? Guys, can you melt people with magnets? Because if that's the thing, we need to see more of that in the comics. I just saw recently, I don't know if you're reading Resurrection of Magneto.
Not yet. It's on my list, though.
Okay. There's a really great way that he deals with some people. There's a really great way that he deals with people in that. I don't want to spoil it for you, but also magnets are involved. And it is, I think it might be better than this one, I'm going to say. I think it makes more sense than that, but it's horrifying. This is also horrifying, though, getting melted by magnets. It doesn't sound very fun. So the X-Men are doing their best to try to save him. The igloo is shattered, so they can get in there. Beast is trying to like kick him in the face, but now he just has telekinesis. He's just using magnets to throw people around.
Because he says sheer bestial strength is nothing to the power of magnetism. So,
of course. Beast can just easily be defeated by Magneto because magnets beat beasts. That's the natural order of the world.
no,
Also, Beast gets like punched in the throat. Like, I'm not sure the throat or the
I think it's
chest.
supposed to be the chin, but it's just this, like, the sound effect is so large that it's taking over the neck.
Yeah. So he's not doing so hot. Bobby is, look at this, he's having such a rough time. He's about to be melted. And Magneto's got them here. He's basically like, back, all of you, or Iceman dies. But they gotta play.
And Iceman's willing to take one for the team. He's gonna sacrifice himself.
This part breaks my heart every time I read it, where he says, I don't matter. He says...
No, it's rough. He looks really sad. The emotion on this panel is very good.
I know. I don't matter. I'll give my life gladly to rid the world of him. I'm like, wow, that's so heroic. But also, Bobby, you do matter. Don't say that about yourself. Bobby needs some self-love. That's what I think. But it's good news because we do end up saving him. Angel saves the day with a distracting swoop in. Redeeming himself for earlier on where he was the first one taken out by just literally flying into glass, I think. And in the end, we get some Deus Ex Machina, basically, is what happens. Because although the X-Men are about to be defeated here by Magneto because magnets, he's gonna melt them all, the Stranger has shown up because
yes,
what
because
Professor X
summoned.
didn't tell us, is that's why he needed to focus so much, you see. Because he had to reach out across space to contact the Stranger and be like, just FYI. Like,
he's here. Maybe next time don't leave all your ships just around.
Metal on the planet, you fool. So a Stranger comes in, and this is where Magneto takes his cue to leave in his Magna car, one of the few rare mentions of the Magna car in all of comic book history. So enjoy.
We don't get to see it though, which made me so sad.
I know. We just get this panel that mentions it, and we don't even get to see like Magneto run away.
No, it's just he's just gone. It's almost like they didn't have that, so they're like, "Oh wait, Magneto's just gone." Yeah. You know. They're like, we need to explain where Magneto went.
And they're like, how do we explain that? And they're like, someone write Magna car in there. There you go.
Like, where'd he go? He left.
Yeah. Little did they know, like, years, decades later, we'd be sitting here being like, oh, but you didn't show us the Magna car. That's so sad.
We wanted to see it.
Yeah, I wanted to see it. And so they get away, and Beast is peeping through the windows at Warren's parents, which... seems kind of creepy, but it's fine because they all run into the house, and they
just
smash.
As the mutants are emerging.
Yeah, they are not smashed.
Well, okay, here's a very interesting page, though. It's very interesting because it contradicts what was going on before. In that it says here in this one, the android mutants, they vanished. I was like, excuse me, androids?
Android? Oh yeah. I
was like, hold on, androids?
Or are they? Well, maybe they, you know, I think I know why they said that. They probably said that because they realized, like, if they're just destroying all of these mutant lives, like, isn't that kind of messed up?
Or are we saying that there's some kind of, like, you know, fusion of the two, depending upon how we're defining it?
There is a lot of technology was used to create this machine, so it could be that they're a fusion, but I feel like because this is our first mentioning of it, when they're pulling the lever to destroy them all, if we have it be that they are actual mutant living beings about to be born into existence, and then they did this and they all died, it's like, it's a little questionable morally. I mean, I know we're full of moral, like, ambiguity in this era, but I would be like, that's kind of messed up. But, you know, if it's androids, then we don't care, because we don't care about robot lives. And I care about robot lives, but comics often do not. It's very tragic, actually.
I just also love that all they had, like, they didn't even actually have to pull the switch because they just fade into nothingness because Iceman went next door and moved them away from the machine, because that's how that works.
That's how that works. That's how that works. I also love Rashid is saying, "Aren't those Warren's brothers?" I also thought about that, but I guess because they're androids, I don't know if there's any mention of them like on his wiki, but maybe there should be. Like maybe I should edit it and be like,
Just go on like, remember this one time? They mattered.
Warren has like, I don't know, how many brothers do we see here? Like at least 10, I would say minimum. But Magneto made it sound like he was making like a massive enough army to conquer the world, so he could have had like millions of brothers here that were being created. Tragic. Rest in peace. Warren 2, Warren 3, 4, 5 through like a million. I also love this panel with Bobby as well, and I love his line here when he comes in and he's like, I like dealt with it, don't worry about it. And then he's like, how about that? A living doll like me, beginning to sound like the ever-loving beast, because he said something so technical, and I'm like, this is like the cutest thing I've ever seen. It's so cute. Why is Bobby always so cute? He's just a cutie. And then this is the part where I was talking about the mind wipe. What do you think about that? About the parents waking up and not remembering anything?
I don't think the machine. I'm not sure if it's that or if it's the effects of the initial hypnosis that they were going on about, because he said briefly like, oh, they won't come down until they're summoned. So I'm like, does that mean that they're also kind of hazy about what happened because they were hypnotized, or did we add an extra layer of a mind web? Because it says here they awake the next morning, so they just left them there. I didn't notice in the first panel if they had changed into their night clothes at that point.
But I guess these are like, maybe, I don't know, because like Warren's dad is wearing straight up pajamas. Like his mom, you could say that's a slip under her dress in this era.
Yeah.
But so do they bring pajamas with them, or are there like spare pajamas at the mansion? Or...
Because if so, they lied. They said they were only staying for a few minutes. So
they packed to like stay overnight. They were like, we're gonna say we're staying for a few minutes, but we're staying there for the weekend. He can't stop us once we're there. So yeah, they have a nice restful sleep though. I don't know if there's any other clues here to really imply what happened to them, but it is weird that they don't remember anything. That's what I'll say about it. It is suspicious. And Charles is in the mansion right now, so who knows?
I mean, you know, and we know how he feels about it at this time period. It's fine. Just when necessary.
And I also feel like the other thing is they did see Magneto in his full costume, which would be super suspicious, like everything that happened to them. Like, if you don't want your secret getting out, you probably want to wipe those minds.
And I think there's a lot of credence to what you're saying, because she does say specifically as though someone simply erased that part of my brain's memory. So
there you go. There it is. Yeah. That's probably why I wrote that down in my notes.
And then she says, oh dear, what a foolish thing to say. It's almost like it really happened.
Dear, why would I say that? I hope that Warren's parents have like been collecting little bits of evidence and they're like secretly investigating this whole suspicious school, because I would love that for them if they're like the few people that are like on to Charles and the X-Men. They're aware, they know what's up. I also love that it ends on this line. It ends with Charles saying, after, you know, they're all there in the morning and they're like, and the parents are like, oh, you guys are back for your field trip. That's so nice. And they're talking about how nice it is that Charles takes people out, because young people don't get out enough. They're always like, you know, stuck at home with their like head in their books. Ha ha ha, we're reading comics. And then Charles says, I try to keep them from going soft and flabby, Mr. Worthington. The end.
It's a very sitcom ending. It's like all laugh and clap. The end.
What a weird line to end this weird story on. And in the next issue, it promises us we're getting a new type of foe, a new type of story, a new type of action. There's a lot of new happening. But the same old Marvel magic that I dream of. This is the Marvel magic that I dream of. Let's be honest. It's my favorite.
I love these issues so much.
Ben is asking, have his parents ever been seen since this? No, after this, they disappeared mysteriously. No, I believe they have been seen. Yeah, I think Warren's parents are around every now and then. They come up. I think at one point they also find out that he's like a mutant. They find out about his wings and everything.
Yeah, because they had a whole arc about, you know, not wanting or supporting and all of that stuff, so.
But I think they get over it in the end, don't they? Don't they come to like accept Angel for his like beautiful winged self?
I believe so, if I'm recalling correctly, and it's not just my wish fulfillment. But
I want that, so I'm gonna say yes, but if someone else knows to the contrary, please feel free to correct me in the chat. But yeah, I think they do. I think they go through a whole phase and then they get over it.
it's interesting to me because I really enjoy these issues and all of just the madness and what is going on and just going in all the different directions. But I can also see why some people look at these and do not enjoy them and do not feel that they are as tight and cohesive as some of the later issues and may not enjoy just how incomprehensible some of the happenings are within.
Yes, yes. Also, Just Rob, I saw that you were asking if we were ignoring the chat. We're not trying to ignore the chat, but there is a lot of chat happening. So usually on streams like that I do with Sasha, just because we have a lot of more viewership, I'm not as. But this is the part where we're gonna talk to y'all. So just FYI, we see you. There's so much chat. If I responded to every person, we would not probably get to say anything.
Also, we don't want to miss some of the panels and all of those things to get to articulate all of what's happening without making it too choppy.
Yes, also true. Also true. The story portion is usually more of us bantering back and forth between us and going through the story, with little bits of chat peppered in.
Yes.
Something that I'm like, this is relevant and we should bring it up. Yes. Mr. Cynic says, I forgot the chat existed.
It was the magnets. It was the magnetism.
Yeah.
You were
was it
magnetized.
Charles? He made you forget. Did you forget or did he make you? Who knows? Who knows? Oh, that's all good. It's all good, Rob. I just wanted to address it in case other people were like, yeah, what's up with that? I'm here. Do they know? We see you guys. We see you guys. Yeah. I think this is just like, I don't know. I kind of want some of this, and I don't know if I want some of this in Magneto's life now, but part of me I think kind of does. I would love to see the Magna car again. Do you think in X-Men 97 they'll bring back the Magna car?
That would be a very deep cut, and I'm not sure where you would find the moment, especially with where we are in the plot currently.
That's
like, you know what we need right now? The Magna car.
The Magna car.
That's
well, I
what
never
the people
thought we were
want.
gonna get the exoskeleton, and then we got that. We got like the first version, which I didn't even know that there was a pre version until someone else brought it up to me, and then I was like, oh yeah, that is true. So I would be hoping. So if anyone's watching from the X-Men 97 team and is thinking in a future season, like if you're flirting with the idea of bringing the Magna car in, just know that I support you. Yeah, do it. Don't be a coward. Bring the Magna car in. Spencer, thank you so much for the super chat. Spencer says, how do magnets work again? What have we learned today?
We've learned that magnets can destroy your ice foes, and that's what you need to do for all of your ice-related rivalries.
Ice, pretty sure. So if you have some ice and it's in your way, and you're like, you know, you need to defrost your car in the morning or something, get some magnets, hold those around the ice. We also learned that you can telekinetically whip people around with magnets. What else can you do in this issue with magnets? I mean,
you can they haven't established why he's doing it yet, but you can just lift people who are coming at you physically. You can just throw them around. We're gonna convolutedly explain about like, you know, like blood and iron and things later on, but we're not doing it yet. It's just he's just doing it. So
that's also true for the mind control, because the mind control can be because like you stop the blood flow like to the brain. That gets established later on when Magneto does mind control Scarlet Witch at one point, which is also, I mean, he's a villain, so it can be morally questionable. It definitely is. But in this, he's just able to use his powers of magnetism to do that. He can also apparently start atomic engines and spaceships with magnets. So if you have an atomic engine that's been long dead for who knows how long because you're stranded on an alien planet and you need to get off, I hope you pack some magnets, because
well, it's like you're not trapped so long as you're with Magneto, except for the fact that you are, because he's not going to take you with you. Take you with him.
Well, I don't know about that. If you are Toad, he's definitely going to leave you behind. I think it depends. Like, I feel like if it's Rogue, like Savage Land Rogue, you might have a chance of like.
Well, the
being
thing
able to
is,
get on the
he
show.
has this whole thing when he's coming in to destroy Cerebro about how the reason he failed last time was because of the help he had, that it was terrible. So this time he's going in alone. So he's very salty about his last defeat.
Even though I gotta say, in issue 11, pretty sure Toad like didn't really have anything to do with that defeat, and so I'd like to stand up for Toad and say, how dare you, Magneto? I don't think that's Toad's fault that you got kidnapped by the stranger. I don't think it's really anyone's fault. Like, if that is about to happen to you, it's just gonna happen. Like, you really don't have a choice.
Well, I like to think that he's also going to blame this on Toad. This is also Toad's fault.
This is also Toad. Toad wasn't even here, and he's gonna be like, Toad, why'd you let me get foiled? And if you were there, if you would come with me, that's what he's gonna
Why
be saying
didn't you
next.
have like the gumption to get on the ship with me after I kicked you off? My goodness.
Oh my gosh. I also like in this issue, and this is something that people were asking about actually in relation to the last X-Men 97 episode, the idea that Charles can like extend his mind from like space to Earth. And I thought it was funny because I forgot that that happens in this. So when I went back to read it for this discussion, I was like, oh yeah, he does do this as early as issue 18.
Yeah, it's established.
Forgot about.
It's established really early on that he can really extend that connection, or if something really, powerful is happening, he can get an impression.
If it's something that's like really intense, he can also just kind of pick it up from almost any distance, which is pretty nuts. Yeah, what are people saying over here in chat? Magneto can diffuse adamantium from bones. Yes, he can.
Yeah, we're thinking about the ripping off of the skeleton.
Fatal attractions. Yeah, that is also a thing he can do. Although I've always wondered, is this addressed? So during that fight, and that was the exoskeleton I was thinking about initially, that Charles comes out in. He goes to that fight in the exoskeleton, right? Isn't it? What's it made out of? Is it not made out of metal?
Well, that issue is really just focused on this really cool scene that they're building up to, where somebody was like, we can rip the metal, adamantium. That's metal. Like, you can see the thought process. It's like, oh my goodness.
Think maybe Magneto's just so focused on Wolverine, like he's not even tracking that, like, by the way, Charles is in. Or does his exoskeleton get ripped up? I was thinking about this today, and I was like, that seems questionable.
I haven't skimmed it in a while.
To that fight.
I haven't skimmed it in a while because, like, the last time I looked at it was just to check if he was wearing the helmet or not, which he's not. Right. But it's not. But that's not a reason that happens. It's just off. There are periods of time where he's just not wearing it. So
just like for funsies, like I guess sometimes you want to let the hair fly free.
Well, sometimes they knock it off, but we're still pre the era where that's a thing. It's more a thing that happens to him in combat.
Okay.
So. Because it's funny, I was reading actually the other day, the first issue where you see him without the helmet. So that was an experience. I think it was 62, if I'm recalling correctly.
Uptown Duck is saying he liquefies it and strips it off because Jim Lee.
You're also right. Yes. No, you're right. Yeah, I'm remembering it now. You're right.
Also because, like, it's just, it's definitely cooler to draw, but it's also, like, that's gonna hurt a lot more. So if I were Magneto, I think I'd probably do it that way too. Not me as myself, but just if I'm Magneto, just to clarify.
So when you're planning your whole destruction of Wolverine.
Yes. If I'm Magneto, I'd be doing it that way. You know what I mean?
Well, if I was Magneto, I would definitely be as extra as he is in these early issues. So.
Yeah, I feel like he's pretty extra in these early issues. That's what I love about him. I love how extra he is. I love how dramatic he is, even when he's not really trying sometimes to be dramatic. It's just like an air about Magneto, I think, that comes along with him. And I also I think why I also really love, like, these issues is there's some stuff that's really smart in it, like, just in terms of, like, the weather balloon and kind of how they get out of that and how dramatic everything feels. Like, everything is really built up very well in these issues and in the story of the mystery of, like, who's behind the attacks, even though it's someone moving metal things around, so you might be able to figure it out. But you wouldn't think Magneto inherently, because he was defeated, like, and literally taken off the planet to the point that we actually have to explain in this issue, like, how did he
this is why he's here.
Ben is saying bone claws, yes or nay?
Yay or nay?
Yeah,
They're
in the
not
bone
as
claws.
cool. They're not as cool.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're not as useful either, you know? Like, I don't know. I just
Yeah.
think if you want to do bone stuff, just go to Marrow. Like, she's really cool with her bones. But I think just having just bone claws, I just always feel like I'd be like, I'm gonna break those. Also, they're so long, you know? Like, I'm already worried about breaking my nails. I can't imagine if I had bone claws, how concerned I'd be. I wouldn't be using them.
I just know that when like my daughter saw a picture of them, she was disappointed. So I feel like that says all it is.
They definitely don't look as cool in terms of art because the metal claws are have like this
All the
sheen to them.
lights
They
and
look more
the
deadly.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the way the light plays off of them and how they have that, what is that? Like where you get the little ting,
Just the
like, you know,
reflection
the
points that they
glare?
add on into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Something cooler about that. Also the coloring, like bone coloring, I feel like is not as cool as metallic coloring in a comic if we're talking about colors, which you know me, I love to talk about colors. Yeah, I feel like Chemdog is saying bone claws make your nose disappear. This is true. We've seen it. It's a very real issue. Get this man his nose back. Get him his adamantium. I mean, granted, the one thing I will say about bone claws is I don't know if we're talking about like me personally, if I would want bone claws versus adamantium. I guess I'd go bone because I don't think I want to go through the adamantium bonding process because that seems like not very good and like I'll probably die.
Well,
So,
without the healing factor for sure.
yeah, without the healing factor for sure. I feel like this story is why is it that when I'm watching X-Men 97 there's so many things that I think about that I've read in X-Men and I'm like, oh, I need to go back and why is this a thing that in my brain
Well,
I
it's
was like I really want
because
to go back
it's
and read
so
this.
clearly steeped in love for all of the various lore and eras just throughout the X-Men. So when you're watching it, there are so many things that it's referencing or just tropes or plots that come from so many different stories that that's always the reaction I have after I watch it, that I want to go read some X-Men, which I think is amazing because not all adaptations give you that feeling at all. So
No, it's nice when you can get something new and then it's also like, oh, I want to go back and revisit older stuff. And also like
mhm.
it makes me want to like read comics. It makes me want to like go back and watch the original series. It makes me like
Mhm.
just want to like steep myself. I mean, I literally moved around a cosplay I was going to
Mhm.
to do X-Men cosplays because I'm like, oh, I need to do like more X-Men cosplays. Like I don't even though I already have like 3 X-Men cosplays. I'm like, no, I don't have enough. So that's the power of the show. What did you think of the last episode, by the way? We haven't talked about this. Well,
No,
we've
like
talked about this a bit, I guess. Texting.
no, I was actually editing earlier today some of the review that I'm gonna do for it. It took me a while to articulate and think about it. And I had to go back and watch one of the other episodes to like compound whether how I felt about some of the connections that were made was how I felt. I liked it overall. I liked it overall. I feel like what it suffers from obviously is coming after episode 5. So, but I did enjoy it. It has some of my favorite parts and some of my least favorite parts, I think, but I really enjoyed all of the elements that it brought in and added to it. And I'm excited to see where it goes. And it was also fun to see the reactions from people who were surprised about some of the things that happened. So I don't get too spoilerific as of yet.
Yes, I feel like that the thing that I like is that it feels like because it's such a melding of ideas, like
Mhm.
I feel like every time I think I know what's going to happen, I don't know. And even with this last episode, like I thought I knew what I was getting and then I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I don't know what I'm getting." And I kind of love that about it. Like it's especially cool when you're like, oh, like I thought I knew this thing and I don't, but it's not in a way that makes me feel like dumb or anything. It's just in a way that makes me think, oh, that's so neat. Like what
Yeah,
you're
no, it's
doing with it.
clever. Like I really liked the repurposing. They kept doing it with E for Extinction because I didn't think they'd pull more from it. And yet then they went back and pulled from even earlier in that arc and repurposed it in a way that made a lot of sense. And I was like,
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah. I also think that's really cool. I mean, yeah, we thought we were done, but no, there
They
was
also
more.
quoted it directly in a way
They
that
did.
that were, and I appreciate that. I was like, I recognize those lines. That
They did. There were some people that were asking. They were like, "What is that about?" And I was like, "Well, technically, that is from this. A fun
it's a
fact."
quote.
There's a quote. We have some chats here. Comics testing was saying, Amanda, I keep thinking about sending an entire run of X Factor to your stalker mail. I'm not sure. I mean, it's not my stalker mail. It's just my mailbox. Just FYI, it is in the video description of all videos. But yes, you can send to my stalker mail if there's ever anything you want to send. I'm not sure if you have this, but it seems like every time I get on here, you haven't read it. Which X Factor run, I guess, is the question. Which one are we talking about? Are we talking about the most iconic one? And if so, which is the most iconic one to you? Because that's also a point of contention to some people. Cowboys fan is saying, "Hey Amanda, followed you on SoundCloud under my artist name. Your covers are really good." I keep thinking, should I take my SoundCloud off here? But I'm glad that you enjoyed the covers, Cowboys fan. I thank you. I recorded those a long time ago. I have a SoundCloud if you guys really want to find it. Some people have also found my I have a fan fiction account that I used to write stuff on. That's another thing. I shouldn't be telling you guys this.
Yeah, I do too, so.
Oh, no. Oh, we should read each other's fan fiction and then do, like, a video about that. That would be entertaining.
Mine's so obscure, though. Like, it's so obscure.
Well, this really makes me want to read it. I'm going to have to look that up after. We'll have to swap fanfic. Balls Monkey, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Balls Monkey says, X-Men 97, like Avengers EMH, shows just how beautifully these stories translate into cartoon format.
It's true. Like, Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes has it has an excellent translation of the Hank and Janet, the infamous storyline. And they do a really good job with it and modify it in some very clever ways. And that does not get the credit that it deserves, because that show kind of skirts under the radar, and some of the ways that it brought plots forward was really good.
Yeah. Comics Testing says, yes, old school X Factor, not the singing show. Yes, no, I know that you're talking about the X-Men team, just to clarify. But there have been multiple runs of X Factor. Just Rob is suggesting the Havoc government. Oh wait, no, the Havoc government team X Factor. I don't know if that's the one that you mean. I wouldn't say that. See, here's the thing. I think people wouldn't say that that's the most iconic one, but that is that is one that I think of. I think a lot of people think of the Multiple Man one when we think of X Factor. What do you think of when you think of X Factor?
I honestly don't think about X Factor a lot, so I am the wrong person.
Sick burn on X Factor.
I'm sorry.
First. Yeah, I mean, I think of like the original X Factor team, which I haven't read all of the runs of any X Factor, to be honest with you guys. I've never sat down and like read a whole X Factor run. So I gotta say, I do know X Factor, but I also don't know X Factor. So maybe I do need a full run of it to read. I did just buy, oh, is it here? Oh, I put it away, I think.
What'd you get?
There. I got a trade for the Jamie Madrox Volume 1
nice.
X Factor. I talked about it on our comic book talking live stream, which we do like bi-weekly, where Duck and I just talk about like the comics that we've gotten. And someone, DiCarlo, I think, was the one that I have a wheel that I spin. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but I spin this on streams. And one of the things that we got for talking comics was that you got to pick the comic, but DiCarlo wasn't sure like what to pick. And then chat suggested X Factor, and I said which one. And I don't know if anyone said, but we just ended up going with that one. So I did get Volume 1 of the trade. So I'm going to read that. And I am excited because I've heard it's very good. And I've seen parts of it and seen that it's good. And people want a Siren cosplay. I get a lot of requests for Siren. So maybe this will be the...
Maybe this will be the time.
Maybe this will be the moment. And also, you know what? It's time. Yeah. Oh, something else that I haven't talked to you about that I did want to ask you.
What?
Well, I guess we've kind of talked about it. Absolute. Absolute. We did talk about it briefly.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
What do you think of that? Not Marvel related. Sorry.
Yeah, DC.
Sorry,
we're switching over to DC. Okay, so for those who aren't in the know, there are rumors swirling that there is a an Ultimate style line shakeup type thing coming for
Yes.
DC in the form that it's potentially going to be called DC Absolute, because they released these editions that are called Absolute editions of their comics.
Right.
So it would tie in with that. And so it's supposed to be your usual, like it's the characters you love, but slightly different type thing. And it should be connected, not connected to the mainline verse, but like it will exist adjacent to, just the same way as the Ultimate Universe does. And so far, the rumors I've heard, I'm kind of like, if we're true, it's still a lot in the it's in my least favorite phase of rumordom, which is like, I heard a rumor and I have secret connections that tell me like da-da-da-da. So it's all very, kind of up in the air as to what it will be. But
That's
so
what I've
far,
heard.
some of the pitches I've heard, if true, I'm very like, we'll see. Like, we'll see how maybe they'll be amazing. But okay, so for those who haven't heard the rumors as are stand, Batman, but with no money, Superman, but with no connection to humanity, and Wonder Woman, Relic Hunter. And so, at least that's what I've heard.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like, here's my thing is like, it's not really as much about the pitches for me as it is just about. I mean, it kind of is like, there's nothing there that I'm like, oh, I have to read that. You know what I mean? Like, I just haven't seen that yet. Now, that doesn't mean, like you said, like there won't be something that I'll be like, oh my gosh, like I have to read this.
And
This
also,
is so
we're
cool.
still in rumor
Also, once
mode.
we get like pages, yeah, it's exactly, yeah. It's if it's written really well, the art's really cool, it might like pull me in, and I'll be like, oh my gosh.
Here's my thing. I'm just kind of like, DC has a very different structure with its alternate universes than Marvel does. And I'm like, DC has Elseworlds. It already has an entire Elseworlds type of line. It has Black Label. It has many spaces where if you wanted to, you could just be like, we're going to play in this realm now over here. We could resurrect Vertigo again if we wanted to. It's just, there are so many things that could be done that I'm kind of like, we'll see. I'll give anything a shot and see what emerges of this, but I'm not rushing to be like, oh my God, it's absolute.
I think the thing that always makes me nervous with these big sort of plans that they have is that, like, yeah, they do have Elseworlds, and I like that stuff because it feels more like self-contained. Yeah. And this feels like they want to do something to like shake up like all of, and I know it's going to be, well, from the rumors, I've heard that it's going to be like its separate thing, like how we're doing the Ultimates over at Marvel. But my thing is that like I just don't have a lot of faith in DC to keep going with it, I guess, because I feel like they make these promises of like like when we had Future State, like it's like we're gonna have Future State and it's gonna be integrated and it's gonna be like the future of DC. And then it was like, oh, just kidding. And then like everything always gets like backpedaled. And so like
Future
if I
State
get too excited,
Future State was like, really awkward because that happened with like the Dan Didio, like the firing, and then they had to like take ideas and like leave it. So it ended up being something quite different than I think what it ultimately originally was.
Yeah,
it is
when it was 5G.
When it in its prior state.
But I feel like that type of stuff happens all the time.
I'm just not done with Dawn of DC yet. I'm like, I let it ride.
I think that's still gonna go, isn't it? It's still gonna be going.
It is. But I feel like what I'm getting is they want like the bump. Like, ooh,
but
like
we just started that.
So I'm like,
what Dawn of DC is supposed to be, the bump?
Like, let it ride. There's some good stuff happening here. There really is. There are some exciting and fun books to check out. And like, again, maybe these will be exciting and fun, but just based on the premises as presented, if they were to roll out, they're firstly things I've already seen several times, and also things that I'm like, I don't necessarily need in my life or have not wondered. They're not different enough. Like, let's go crazy. Let's go tangent,
I also feel like I don't like, I know that they've also been rumored to be working on this since before Marvel was even working on Ultimates, which I have feelings even about saying that. Like, one, it's a rumor, but two, it's also just like, well, of course you would say that if you're gonna release it now. Like,
well, I don't know. I mean, they both have an extensive history of copying from each other. There's
That's true. That's true.
like
I just feel like the
Marvel's
timing for it
stolen
is not
from
good.
like Marvel's stolen from DC so many times, and there's this weird thing where
Well,
they
they've
often
both
don't get
stolen from each
caught.
other.
They do.
Mhm,
They do.
mhm.
Like they do go back, and it's not
Or,
even necessarily
taking inspiration.
that's the thing.
Like
I'm like, it's not
borrowing.
necessarily stealing.
It's
It's
not
like
stealing.
sometimes you see an idea and you're like, that's good, that's working. Like you see it on YouTube all the time where it's like if a concept or
Oh,
a meta,
100%.
same with Twitch, like a meta takes off, it's like, that's what we're doing. This is the thing. This
Oh
is now.
man, there are times when you just like do something that's something another creator has done and it's the same concept, but you're like doing it yourself with your own spin, and people just say like you stole the idea. And it's like,
Sometimes
no,
you've never even seen it before too, and you're like, what?
I just thought about this and I thought it would be cool, and it's totally cool that someone else is doing it and they did it before me, but like I don't even know who that is.
And it's like, oh no, parallel
and
plot,
sometimes
it
you
strikes
do see
again.
other things and they just inspire you, and that's also like fine. It's more just the timing of it, I guess, is what I mean. Is just like Ultimate just came out, so it's like if Absolute comes out right now, like I know it's not necessarily a copying in the way of stealing.
I would feel terrible if they really had been and they were like so proud of it, and then like Ultimate comes out first. It's like, oh man, now no one will believe that we came up with it first.
To be honest, I'm like, I want to believe you if that's what's going on, and you've been working, because you could have been working on it for like 5 years. But also, I'm just like, it's really weird that we're just hearing about it now. Like,
okay, here's my thing. Here's my thing. Like, let's say that we were cooking for 5 years. I'm like, we cooked for 5 years and we came up with Bruce's broke. Like, come on, guys.
Also, didn't we just do Bruce's broke?
He's legit broke right now. So,
how is that different than what we're getting? Like,
well, okay,
maybe he's really broke.
No, okay, no. The idea is that he was always broke. That's the idea.
Oh, he was always broke. Okay, well, that's kind of different, I guess. He was always broke.
But for me, I guess, I don't know. Maybe I'm just like, I already know the answer to that question. I'm like, okay, so he's Batman, but less effective because he has less money. So like he has less ability to get gadgets and other things. He has to compensate with other resources. I answered the question.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fine. It doesn't really feel different from Batman though, does it? Because like, he has money.
And
it is a crutch. But
like, I don't know. It's like if the question is like Superman, okay, Superman's not connected to humanity. I'm like, well, I read the New 52 and I watched Man of Mope. So I just,
I already know what happens. I guess if they do something really different with the concept.
That's my thing. I'm like, okay, well, how alien is Alien? And also, they do that with Elseworlds all the time too. It's like, oh, Red Sun, he was raised in like the USSR. It's like, oh, what about the Gods and Monsters, where it was Zod, and that was interesting. I like that one. Gods and Monsters is an underrated universe.
I feel like we don't get enough like Elseworlds in general too. Like I feel like they're always trying to like make a big thing, and then I'm like, why don't we just get more Elseworlds? Because those are really cool.
Well, they're doing a whole. They're doing more Elseworlds. There's like
what's the thing that they're doing?
There's like 10 that are coming out. That
sick.
Yes, they're doing a drop of them. They announced it, but then it kind of like fell behind because like marketing's not good.
Yeah.
Marketing's not good for either of them though. Marketing is hard.
I miss Tales of the Dark Multiverse. That's like, I love that. And I was really sad when they were like, and then we destroyed it. I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, I'll wait for it to come back. It'll come back one day. And I'll be waiting. I'll be ready.
You'll be there. You're that person.
Laughs. He's back. Yeah, I'll be that one person. I know also, I think we had to kind of get rid of it because it was just being like overdone.
He's trapped in Fortnite now, isn't he? Like canonically, I think he is.
Yeah, I think I've seen him over in Fortnite. I say that like I was over there. Like I was like, I was just in Fortnite. He's like over there just chilling. I was like, oh hey, how's it going? He's like, I'm trapped. I was like, yeah, sounds right. Yeah, I know they're doing like a crossover, and that was like a whole thing in Fortnite.
Yeah, they like explained that he
is like a whole thing.
I'm not even close to versed or steeped in that at all. So
I would kind of love to be like, what if I just changed my channel to just being like Fortnite lore, and I became like a Fortnite lore master? Would you guys be here for that? Would anyone want to watch that? Because I kind of really enjoy Fortnite, but I don't play it. Like I'd have to play it all the time. That's the thing. And they got rid of like building is now like I think an optional thing, or it's like gone. And that was my least favorite part of Fortnite. So I was like the only person that was excited about that change.
I was just gonna say, like, I feel like that might be a hot take too.
I think it is a hot take. Yeah. Also, Comics Testing said that they would send what they can. And they said, I can tell you're missing half the entire story of X-Men from the 80s to the 90s. Well, I've definitely read some of the 90s X-Men and some of the 80s X-Men. But if you mean like have I read like every issue from the 80s to the 90s?
Or maybe like physically,
No.
like having it.
I mean,
in your
yeah, I
hands.
don't like if we're talking physically, like I really don't own enough comics from the 80s to 90s. This is very true. This is very true. Like I read a lot of stuff digitally, I guess, from those eras. I mean, I do have my Dazzler Masterworks, which I got one of, and then Michael sent me some of those, I think. So I have a lot of like Dazzler stuff, which is 80s, 90s, 80s, 90s.
I'm very selective about what comics I collect physically, just because there is a spacing issue. There is.
I agree. That is the one thing. It's like I like to have them in both formats so that when my shelves are full. And like honestly, I have to go through every year just to make room for the next year of things to collect, especially when you do like singles. Like do you collect singles regularly?
Not if I can
well?
avoid it.
Yeah, okay.
Not
That's
like
smart.
physically not if I can avoid it. Like it's the singles I'm usually in the digital space, and if I'm liking it, then I'm like, okay, then I'm gonna get a trade and we're gonna get this all nicely collected and everything so I can have it. But it's just
that's very smart because
I'm running out of space.
Yeah.
And the kids, they're so rough with them. And it's so expensive and they're so rough with them. And like they don't mean to be. But it's just like,
well, they're
it's a
fragile.
rip.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm a grown adult and I've ripped my comics before and been like, oh no. And it's like, what happened? It's like I turned a page, you know what I mean? Like they are very fragile. And I do like to read all of my comics, even the ones that I get for like a collectible purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I do still read them. I am very much like I don't know, it's like my golden rule of like, if I bought it and I don't read it at some point, I'm not saying I'm going to read it right away because many of you know about my bin of unread and also my giant stack. I have like a stack on my nightstand that's like this of just single issues. And then I have a trade stack. So that's just like my single issues stack. And then I have a full bin as well on top of that of unreads. So that's
Do you ever have this weird existential moment when you get rid of something that you're not going to read? I have that. Sometimes I have this moment where I'm like, I have decided that I am not going to read this probably in my life.
Do you sell it? Do you give it to someone?
I usually sell it. Yeah. Like if I have something that I'm definitely not going to read and it's in good condition, I usually resell it.
Like, do you think back to the moment of like when I bought this? This is where I was at with this.
I do sometimes think I'm like, I bought this and this was the rationale for why I bought it. Right. And then I have this moment where I'm like, am I going to read it? And then I have this other completely unhinged moment. I'm like, will this be valuable one day? Is this a mistake?
This is a mistake. Should I keep this? I mean, yeah, I don't think I've gotten rid of anything yet that I haven't read. I don't know if that's
usually
tells you about my hoarder life.
Well, usually it's stuff that I have read now. I have it in Omni, and there's nothing inside of the single trade that's like an extra interview or anything that I feel is worth keeping around, because I will keep it around if it has a unique interview or something that I don't have inside
of
another
that,
issue.
The Grant Morrison manifesto that you went into in your E is for Extinction video. Also, if you guys haven't watched Sasha's E is for Extinction video, it is so good. Oh my goodness. There were so many things that you brought up in it too that I was just like, oh man, I'd never like thought about this or the way things are interpreted. And there's like a manifesto that Grant Morrison
I didn't even get half into it. Ugh. It's so long. It's so
a lot.
Okay,
but you brought out like some really good points that are in it. I had to look it up after.
One comment that I got that I wanted to kind of talk about, I haven't gotten a chance to just because it hasn't come up, but it's just the idea that this was never meant for public eyes. Some people, because I made some comments about it and the way it's written, and some people said, well, this was never meant to be seen. This was in between like Morrison and pitching it to Marvel and for the higher ups. And there is a part of me that I'm like, yeah, it was definitely insider baseball, like not something that you would assume.
Wait a minute. They said it's not meant to be seen?
Yeah, they're like, it was not for us. It was not for our eyes. This is how the sausage was made. We were not meant to see it.
Because that's when Grant, like in terms of when Grant Morrison wrote it, like the intention behind it.
No, like, yeah, exactly. The idea was that it was written
well, they shouldn't
as
have
a
published
pitch.
it if we weren't.
That's
meant
me.
to see it.
That's where I'm at. I'm like, okay, but then once it becomes published in the Omni, at that
Now we're
point,
meant to see it.
but I guess
Some
the
of
idea
us.
was that it wasn't written with the idea that would be read by others.
Yes, I
And
think that's fair. Sure.
I'm like, that may be true. And maybe I'm a paranoid person, but I'm like, I think you should write things with the assumption that maybe somebody else might read it at some point and how it could be construed. For me, what stood out the most about that pitch was the swearing in it. It surprised me a little bit. I was like, I thought this is a professional pitch and it's dropping F-bombs and all kinds of stuff is happening.
Well, I guess Morrison was like, time to be a little bit edgy in this pitch. That's where they were at, I guess. Which
Well, it's because it is very
edgelord,
edgelord,
actually.
which is of the era. That's
Yeah.
the era it comes from. All like we're leading into the ultimate universe is going to come to, and that's just going to be nothing but edge.
That's true. It's a straight edge. That's all it is.
No, it's the opposite. It's the opposite of straight edge.
Oh yeah, sorry. Just edge. It's a very crooked edge. It's the most crooked edge
Jagged.
I've ever seen.
There we go.
Yeah, sharp. I feel like that's interesting because I would just say if it's in there, I'm assuming Morrison had to be notified or something, right?
I don't know.
Like,
maybe. You never know.
hope.
Sometimes people just publish
I'd be
things.
curious.
Well,
I
because
wonder if I meet Morrison, I will ask them and say,
well, okay.
Did they let you know?
Because I wonder. Because okay, do you remember the infamous Frank Miller one from All Star Batman and Robin, like the ass one? You know, like I always wonder. I'm like, did that get approved? Like that's out there. Now, I love that it's out there because it's hilarious. But
I mean, but I feel like, I think Miller would have said yes, but
I assume so.
Granted, there's so many things that it is true that we don't know. But if we don't have any evidence, this is what I would say. If we don't have any evidence that Morrison
to the contrary,
said, don't put that
don't
in there,
publish
and
this.
then they did it anyways.
Like over my dead body. Don't do it.
Please don't. Then I would assume that it was with the permission of the writer. Which and
I would assume why not? Because the general perception of the run is that it's this historic acclaimed run. So I'm just kind of like, why not? And I like it. I like seeing the attitude and I like seeing it published with all of just everything that was in there. I think it's a really good window into the era and the headspace. And I like it.
I don't even think I guess also some people are like, well, that's not fair to interpret, but I'm like, it's so interesting though, and why not? It's a weird thing to be like, we aren't supposed to see it when it's but it's so fascinating to see. Of course we want to see it. I want to see it. Like,
no,
I thought it was so awesome.
I liked especially seeing the interplay of the effect that movie had. It had such a ripple effect for years across so many different aspects of not just the X-Men, but Marvel Comics in general. So I love seeing that play out.
Playing back and influencing the comics, which is like, I just think so cool and also like weirdly powerful.
I find it so fascinating for a movie that was so disconnected from the source material in the first place. So.
And yet Morrison was seeing that movie and being like, we need to be more like this. Like this movie.
Do you see those suits? Do you see those bikers?
Even though it's like that movie was not really based on any of that, but I don't know. I do like that echo effect. I think it's really
what
really
I
cool.
love too is seeing the people react. Like, I hated those costumes. Blah. Just like, so it's interesting then to see the interpretation of what is being pitched and now how it's being received. And I'm just like, I love all of it. Quotes and looking back at that kind of stuff is my favorite thing.
I think also some people maybe, I guess, get concerned because it's like an interpretation of, this writer doing a pitch and then, but I also didn't think that you said anything that was, talking down about the pitch. You were just kind of going through it and talking about how it informed clearly what the comic was and where that all laid out. And I always think it's really fascinating. I wish we had stuff like that for all writers. I think it's so cool to see like what was in their brain when they were putting together a story or a pitch.
Well, I didn't even get to like the coolest part of the pitch for me, which is they go through the notes later on about what each issue is supposed to be. And a lot of those things are different. And I find that fascinating, like what details changed in between pitch and the actual issue itself. So that's really cool, because some things are like, some devices are supposed to be different. Like we aren't, like Cassandra Nova is called Charlie X. So it's really cool to see like some of the details and stuff. So
be like,
it's
what
fun.
shifted? Yeah, that's so cool. I think what Mark was saying, I bet they were informed and they were paid. I would like to hope so.
I would assume, because
I hope so.
I mean, hope. I always hope that people are informed about what's going into these books.
If Morrison was not informed and was not compensated, I would say that's messed up. But it is also a weird industry, so like, I don't know. The fact that they did the whole Hawkeye intro, clearly taking inspiration from David Aja, and David Aja saw no money from that, is something that happened.
It's a thing that happens fairly often. So
yeah. So on one side, I want to be like, that should be how it is. I also guess I just feel that still, like with writers, like writers do often have like a little bit more like say or power, but I shouldn't say that, because I mean, if that's what's happening to your artist, then yeah.
I honestly, I am not in that part, like that industry. So like, I'm not sure what happens when they repackage your work for an Omni, you know? Yeah. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, Comics Testing, thank you so much. Comics Testing said, I just mailed you X Factor Judgment War from Amazon. We'll be there Tuesday the 23rd. I will keep an eye on the post. Thank you. That's so kind of you.
You have to put it at the top of the pile.
I have to put it at the top of the pile. Yeah, I know. I have like so much manga too to read. And then I just saw in Marvel Unlimited, we got a code for like Viz Media. So you can like also get a month of that. And Viz, I think, are doing the reprints of the X-Men animated. No,
yes, they are.
Manga. Oh,
they are
the X-Men animated series manga, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for all of the reprints that are coming through Viz.
I have it on my wish list, but I also feel weird. Like, I just moved it down recently, because the thing is, it doesn't have like a preview on Amazon.ca for the what it is. So it just looks like this blank square with like, you know, the whatever filler blank images and
it's like this not final, you know.
Yeah, so I'm like, anyone that's looking at my wish list is like, this is nothing. Like, what is this? But when you click it, it just gives you the title. And I'm like, why isn't there art for this? Why? Like, I hate when they list books like that, where they just like don't give me any art. There's a few things that are books and they just don't put like a cover. I'm like, could you just...
Well, it's because they're not right. It's like, we know we're doing it, but we're not.
Right, we don't know what'll... I mean, you could just put a placement image, though, from the original. I mean, I guess, are they redoing all of it? Are they... Or is it just like a fancy like redo? Because I thought it was going to be like going over it, but are they like starting again?
From my understanding, they're not starting again, but
okay. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'm excited for it, whatever it ends up being. If they're starting again, I'd also be fine with that. Other people were like, is it going to get like an ending? Because it didn't like get like it. I don't think it really ended. Apparently,
I'm just glad we're moving forward with all that Viz stuff. Viz has been in kind of limbo with getting, you know, rights and all of those kind of things for a while. So it's like, yeah, it's moving, it's happening.
I want to just read more like Marvel manga, because I just think it's such a fascinating, weird thing that we have.
I've been really tempted to revisit the X-Men anime lately.
Yeah. Oh, we should do that. I would
12 episodes of X-Men anime.
That should be a collab that we do. We should talk about the X-Men anime. Also, just like, there's so much Marvel anime and manga. It is... I love it. It makes me... I have also the Deadpool manga that I really want to read as well, because I just feel like Deadpool in a manga is I'm just like, why is that so perfect in my mind?
I enjoy the collabs, like Superman versus Meshi. I love, and it's basically just an ad to go eat in Japan. And I'm like, I love these.
I mean, honestly, I feel like that would be great too, because I would like to eat in Japan. So sold. I will do it. Just send my plane ticket in the mail.
What I love is the tropes. There are so many great tropes in that. Like, Superman is talking about Lex, and he's like, he's my great rival. And I'm like, I love it. I love it so much.
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we go? I feel like also, okay, wait. I have a question for you. Okay, wait. No, this is the problem. I was talking about this and I was like, here's the problem with when Sasha and I stream together. We talk about comics and then I'm like, oh wait, no, there's like a million things I want to talk about. But I do have another question. Gotham Knights, will you watch it with me if I go back and finish it?
I feel like I'd be like an angry like person yelling at a cloud if I watch Gotham Knights. I feel like I'll turn into that like obnoxious fan. It's like, an issue that did it.
I mean, I think here's where I'm at. That's who I was at the start. And my cold heart started to melt a little bit as I got into it. It is still, there are things that I'm like, well, I don't know about that, where I'm not feeling it. But then there's some stuff where then I'm like surprised at how much I'm feeling it. I don't know, but I definitely kind of want to go back and finish it. I also don't know if anyone else would be here for it. Let me know in the chat if you guys want me to finish Gotham Knights. But I'm kind of curious because I have heard that like by the end it makes you want the next season, but then it ended.
But I mean, that's what everybody says when the show. Like, how often do you hear like it ended and I'm glad? Well, I mean, if you hated it, you hear that.
I mean,
but usually people
shows
stuck
that
to the
I
end.
loved though that were canceled early on that I think didn't deserve to be canceled early on, and these are shows that were also critically acclaimed. Not to say that Gotham Knights has been critically acclaimed because I haven't seen any evidence of that, but I'm just saying, considering that I have those experiences with shows that were, I think, gone too soon, I could see it being something. That's the best thing I have to say right now. I'm really not selling it very well, but I mean, if you are curious, I'll say this: if you watch episode 1 and you are compelled, let me know, and maybe we can do that.
I'll do it. I'll watch episode 1. Yeah, I'll watch episode 1 and I'll let you know where I'm at.
Just live text me that response. You should honestly, like message like all of us. Honestly, you should do a reaction something to that. I don't know how you do that. Because people are out there doing these reactions to full X-Men 97 episodes. People have been asking me to do that. Also, thank you for wanting to see those reactions. I appreciate you all that are requesting it. But I've literally had to be like, guys, I would love to, but it's not gonna be good. Like, in the sense that, I mean, my reaction will probably be fun, just like other people's are. But I'm like, the copyright. It's so scary. Oh. Full episodes. I'm like watching.
I don't know how they're doing full episodes, but I find they've been pretty lax on allowing clip usage because I've been using.
Well, I think they want us to all talk about it, which is
that's my thing.
Great.
I'm like, I think they're allowing it because they are enjoying the buzz and the word of mouth has been extremely good. So, and I think as long as you're not pushing the envelope, because I'm like, there's a time limit. There's a certain amount of like like a gentleman's agreement of like, if you use below this amount of time, we will, cool. We'll kind of let it go. But if you start going like ham, like I'm posting 5 whole minutes, then,
I just think it's like, it makes me so like nervous and I'm like, I wish, but like you should something of that, even if you just get just to episode 1 or you just want to do like a video on the outrage that you feel, I would also be down to watch that, whatever you feel with it. But it's weird because you are going to rage, but also I think it's weird how there are things that I'm like, I'm kind of curious. It's like kind of watching a train wreck, I think, that first episode. I'm sorry to any Gotham Knights fans. I'm sorry. Yeah, but I feel like that it is like I can't look away. Like I wanted to. There were moments. And then it just made me curious. It's like, okay, well, like how could it get worse? And then it kind of gets worse. And then it kind of started to get a bit better. And then that's when I stopped. So I keep thinking about it. I'm like having Gotham Knights dreams. I'm imagining that I'm ziplining for the first time out a window and nailing it. I think I told you about that scene.
You did tell me about that. You did. Some of them are saying like with Castiel. Yeah, I know Castiel's Two-Face.
Yes.
So
yes. Oh, people, you love Sasha Salt. This is true. Yes.
I like to keep my salt contained, you know?
Samuel says, I'm here for rants. Yes, see, I am also here. I'm also here for the rants. But I mean, I also just selfishly like to say to Sasha, like, have you read or watched this? Just because I want to know, like, what your thoughts are on stuff.
Well, it
It's
is
just
nice.
fun.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, it is nice that I could just text you something like the other day. I was like, "Do you think it's Bastion?" And you understand what I mean. So
Yeah, that's also true. Because there's other people in my life where I'd be like, let me talk to you about this Magna car. And they'd be like, why are you talking to me about this? Like, what is this even? I go to parties sometimes. I don't know if you get this where you go to a party, you're talking to someone about something, and then they're talking to you about comics. And they're like, oh, that's cool. You like, or that's part of what you do is like comics. And you're like, yeah, yeah. And then I go into this like super like niche mode of like, let me tell you about like issue like 305 of this comic and like how there's this one panel and I'm like going into this deep dive and I can tell
can you
people
see
go
the
from
point?
being
Like, eyes
interested to
glaze
like
over.
yeah, they look like they're trying to escape and then I have to remind myself that like that's not how you can talk to everyone.
I don't know.
So
I
it's nice to
usually
have
get
people.
the brush off pretty early on, where it's just like, "Oh,
Oh,
that's cute," you know,
oh,
that's cute. You
oh,
know, you talk
yeah.
about comics, it's cute.
I mean, maybe that is what people are doing to me and I'm just completely oblivious, which could also be possible. Or it is people, like, I find there's a lot of people that are interested until I go too deep. And then they're like, good Lord, this is not. I just wanted to talk about Spider-Man. And now you're like talking about, like, some.
You went in too far. They weren't willing to like.
Like, I liked when I was able to just message you and be like, did you know about this Spider-Man Nate Gray team up that happened? Because what is this? Like, that's crazy. Oh boy. All right. Well, this is probably enough of us geeking out for tonight.
Oh, it's midnight.
It is. It is
It's a
midnight.
new day. We've taken
A
them
new
to a new
dawn.
day.
A new dawn, a new day. And I hope you all feel good because you just got to enjoy the magnificence that was
The
magnets.
master of magnetism.
Yes. Maximum magnets all the way. And I hope that you all have a great the matchless magnets.
Yes.
I hope you all have a great day, and please continue to find new uses for magnets and everything that you do. I'm sure Magneto would be very proud of you. And let me know in the comments if you made it to this point in the video, you crazy person, if you're watching in the future, and let me know what weird magnet uses you can think of because I'd love to know about them. Or if you have things from the comics, oh my gosh, everyone give me your comic references for magnets and I will go back
It's
and
a
look at all of
list.
them.
Magnet tier list.
Magnet tier list. Oh my gosh, best uses of magnets in comics. That's the video that everyone will be clicking.
1 million
view
views.
video. All right. Well, Sasha, is there anything that you want to plug? Anything you've coming up on the channel that we need to check out other than everything?
Well, X-Men 97, I've got some more stuff coming up for that. And I was informed by some of my lovely viewers that I missed some references in my latest Batman Brave and the Bold episode. So we're going to do a follow-up and it's going to be great. We're going to get some Alfred fan fiction. I'm very excited for Alfred's 60s fan fiction is peak fan fiction.
What?
So
I'm excited to watch that. That sounds amazing. And I will definitely be there for your X-Men 97 because I'm enjoying all of your videos on them. The deep dives, the casual, just saying the thoughts. I love that. So I will be there. Make sure you guys all go check it out. Sasha is also in the video description. The video description below the video. You can click it. It expands. There's so many fun things in there. And I hope you enjoy them if you are a person that likes to nerd out about video descriptions. All right, well, I'll be back. What am I doing? Who am I? Some stuff. We're doing things. I have a stream that's going to be happening on Sunday. Tomorrow I'm going to watch 3 movies, so that's going to be my life. So no stream tomorrow. I also have to watch Rebel Moon Part 2.
oh, have fun with that.
Yes.
Sorry, oh my god. This is
Yes.
salty.
I'm scared a little bit. I didn't think it could get worse. That was I was like, we gotta go uphill from here, okay? I like Zack Snyder, so just FYI. I think I'm gonna wear my baby doll cosplay when I do my review because a lot of people have been hating on me, saying that I don't like Zack Snyder, and I'm like, look, you don't understand. I actually really do like Zack Snyder.
Just
I
not
really
this?
like this movie. Yeah. That's why I'm watching it, because I really want to like it. So please, Zack Snyder, please let me like your movie. I've heard Zack Snyder's like the nicest guy, so I really don't want to meet him and then he looks up my stuff and is like, oh, you like hate my movie. Like, I'm so sorry. It's not good, but I think you're great. So anyways, yes, that will be a thing, and I will be back on Sunday. We'll be doing Legos and cosplay, hopefully. This is my 3rd time trying this, and hopefully I'll be alive and be able to do it. I'm sorry, I've been very exhausted. And on Monday, I'll be back doing an India RPG stream, as I always do with the stream team. And on Thursday, we're going to do, hopefully, some more Bandle Tale, which is a fun little crafting RPG set in the League of Legends world, and it's super cute. So, join me. Okay, that's it. That's enough of this. Everyone go to bed, or good morning, wherever you are.
Whatever you're doing.
Whatever you're doing, go do it, and make sure you bring your magnets. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Stay nerdy. Bye.